There we go. Happy New Year. Welcome to the January 6th Dare County Board of Commissioners meeting. At this time, I'd like to ask the Reverend Spotswood Graves if he'd come forward and give us an invocation.
And a blessed new year to you. Let us pray. Lord God, at the beginning of this new year, we give you thanks for safekeeping. You who are from everlasting to everlasting, we praise you for your long suffering. Our years pass away like a sigh, and we are soon gone. So teach us to number our days that we may receive a heart of wisdom. Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love. As we gather here this day, we give you thanks for the privilege of gathering. We give you thanks for elected representatives. And we pray that our leaders work together to uphold the highest ideals of justice and service. Give them wisdom and desire to weigh the needs of others, of all. Make them brave to speak out against wrong, and help us to honor them in their struggle to do the right thing. Give us keen hearing, open to the cries of the weak and the ignored. Teach us that those with whom we disagree also possess some of the truth. Stir us to want to break down the barriers to decrease the distance that separates us from each other. Help us talk with each person as we would talk to a close, trusted friend we want to know better. We lift up servants of Dare County this day, recognized for their years of service and the quality of their service. We give you thanks for lifting up models of service in President Jimmy Carter and the Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. Yes, we all have weaknesses and blindnesses, but we thank you how people give themselves to improve our communities. In this new year, we pray for President Biden and from President-elected Trump. Protect them. Guide them. You know their hearts, reveal to them your ways. You are Lord of all nations, all humans, and your compassion knows no bounds. Deal with your world not according to our deserving, but according to your long-suffering, wise purposes. We know that you precede all of our tomorrows, for you are always present. You know no yesterday or tomorrow. You are beyond time. Thank you that you are. This is our prayer. Amen.
Amen. May we stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take a moment just to welcome our chairman of the Board of Education, Dave Twitty's with us today. We have former Board of Education member Susan Bothwell's with us this morning. And we have former Vice Chairman Dare County, Wally Overman, with us this morning. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. County Manager.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Item 1 on the agenda is the chairman's opening remarks.
Thank you, County Manager. I got some lengthy things to cover this morning under Chairman's comments because it's the first of the year. We got to get some appointments made from board members that former board members held. But you might have recognized this at the last meeting. I believe that humor is the best medicine. And this year, I'm going to have a little fun before we get started each meeting. I like to have a little humor. There was, we already had that this morning with the thumbs up. But on the second go-round, there was this minister that, and Spotswood could probably relate to this, that one Sunday morning he didn't feel like preaching. And so he called his associate pastor to let him know that he was a little under the weather, but he really wanted to go play golf. So he left and he went to the next town where he figured nobody would recognize him. And so he got on the first tee and he drove the ball off the first tee 350 yards and made a hole in one. And the angel spoke to the Lord and said, you know, why did you do that? And God said to her, he said, who do you think he's going to tell? All right, that was my humor for today. Let's talk about some more serious stuff. Department of Health and Human Services has issued an updated public health advisory on the Buxton beach access, and most of you have certainly been following that progress, and the Army Corps has done a remarkable job so far trying to clean that mess up that we have down there. And with respects to the recent responses that the Corps has done, in approximately 2/10 of a mile section of the beach has been reopened, starting at the southmost jetty in Buxton, and it continues south. The decision essentially was to revert the original 3/10 of a mile closure area adjacent to the Buxton Fudge was made after, as I mentioned, contaminated soil and water removed from the corpse, and the prolonged period of that time being the last report. The petroleum sheen in the area they've done a remarkable job cleaning a lot of that up. They will be issuing some more contracts to survey the whole site, and we'll continue to monitor that, for them to continue to clean that site up. But some progress has been made, and that's very, very encouraging. You're very much aware, and I've had emails this week, I'm sure the board has, with some issues on lane closures in Manio, extended for a week of January 13. The single lane closures on 64 between Nags Head and Manio will be extended approximately 3/4 of a mile to the west for the week of January 13. The closures are necessary for Dare County workers to perform some maintenance on some culvert pipe under the highway. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully that'll be done much sooner rather than later. Continue to be careful. Those lanes are tight with the way that the work's being done on the bridge as well. So be careful when you're going across that bridge. Once again, this is the 34th year celebration of Martin Luther King here in Dare County. This year's program is going to be a musical extravaganza at the First Flight High School course, and the Echoes of Heritage will be there. And this event's going to take place January the 18th at 11 a.m. right behind us here at the Virginia Tillett Community Center. And certainly, last but not least, most of you are aware, we lost another icon in the county, Dare County native, Darrell McNary Collins, who had some 40 years of work with the National Park Service. I was at his service Saturday at 1 o'clock, and I could not have been more honored to have been asked by the family to say a few words at Daryl's funeral, and it was a beautiful service, and just keep your thoughts and prayers for the family of the passing of Daryl Collins. All right, with that being said, I've got a number of board appointments that we need to make that were vacated by former Vice Chair Overman, B. Bass Knight, and Danny Couch. And this morning, I'd like to ask the board's vote to we're going to add Murray Ellen Balance on the 5-on-5 committee, the Children of Youth Partnership, and the Buxton Woods Local Advisory Board. And if I could have a motion from you to do this, it would be greatly appreciated.
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Ross. It's been seconded by Commissioner Bass Knight. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Bateman, sorry. Sorry about
You're
that.
having a rough day.
It all started with that thumb. It all started with the thumb.
But he's got a career in comedy if things really go bad.
That's right. I'd also, at this time, I'd like to appoint Carson Creef to the Dare County Public Facilities Corporation. I need a motion to do so.
Motion.
It's a motion by Vice Chairman House.
Second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Balance. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. The Government TV Advisory Board, I'd like to make the appointment for Commissioner Burris and the Arts Council Commissioner Burris, and I need a motion to do that.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion on that from Commissioner Bateman to approve. It's been
Second.
seconded by, I believe, Commissioner Creef and Vice Chairman House. Any further comments? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Capital Improvement Planning Committee, motion to appoint Vice Chairman House, and First Flight Society, Vice Chairman House.
Motion.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner Balance. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Let's see what else we have here. The Airport Authority, Vice Chairman Overman served on that, and I'm asking this morning that we make a motion to move former Vice Chairman Overman to the at-large seat, and then have Commissioner Bateman serve in the commissioner's seat on that board.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion on the floor by Vice Chairman House to do so. Is seconded by Commissioner Creef. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. I'd also ask that we move former Vice Chairman Overman to the at-large seat for the Trillium Health, and have Commissioner Ross serve in the commissioner's seat on the Trillium Board. Is there a motion to do so?
Motion to approve.
The motion by Vice Chairman House. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Balance. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. I'd also like to, and I don't need a motion to do this, but I'm appointing Murray Ellen Balance to the Fedison Center Advisory Board, the Older Adult Services, Carson Creef, and Waterways Commission, Carson Creef. And during commissioner's business, I'll cover several other boards during commissioner's business at the end of the meeting. So County Manager, that completes my opening remarks.
Chairman, that brings us to item 2 on our agenda. This is our service pins. This is where we have the opportunity to recognize our employees for their years of service and show our appreciation. Today we have one. Aisha Norman's here to get a 20-year pin from Tammy Reber.
Welcome this morning, ladies.
Thank you. Good morning to you. Thank you for allowing me to be here today to make this presentation. I think this is a great way to just honor those people that have chose to make working for Dare County a career. Allow me to introduce you to Aisha Norman, who, of course, started with social services 20 years ago. I hired her. So anyway, during her 20 years with social services, she has held several positions, some of them more than once. She began at our front desk, greeting the public and answering phones. She worked her way up to income maintenance caseworker, taking and processing applications for us. She served as an income maintenance investigator, which she realized was not really her thing. I like to think that she just wanted me back as a supervisor. So she came back to the front desk for a short period of time before taking her current role of senior accounting tech. As a senior accounting tech, she processes invoices for payment. She tracks reimbursement. She also helps in completing the 1571, which is a state monthly report, and it's the method in which social services draws down federal and state funding to cover the mandated programs that we operate. She, when she is not at work, she is a proud mama of Kai, her son, age 15, and her daughter, Ava, 5 months old. Yes, talk about starting over. When she's not after work, you can find her in the gym, cheering on her son, Kai. He plays basketball, or in the football stands. He plays football also. If you do see her there, I might suggest that you venture a few rows behind, because not only is she a proud mama, but I've heard she's a very loud mama when it comes to cheering her son on. So, Asia, I thank you for the past 20 years of good work, and I hope it's not too presumptuous to assume that there'll be at least 10 more from you. Maybe. It's been a joy to work with you. Congratulations. There you go. Thank you.
Next, we have our Employee of the Month. We have two. We have our December Employee of the Month as well as our January Employee of the Month. For our December Employee of the Month, I'd ask Chuck Lysette to come forward to make that presentation.
Welcome this morning, Chuck.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Woodard and Commissioners. Asia, congratulations on 20 years. Roxana, will you join me up here, please? I'm pleased to be here this morning to present Roxana with the December Dare County Employee of the Month recognition. Sheila Davy sends her heartfelt congratulations to Roxana and would be the one who typically presents this award, but she is on vacation. Roxana joined public health staff in July 2012 as the Director of Health Education and Community Outreach. In 2014, she and former Commissioner Wally Overman began chairing the Saving Lives Task Force. She leads a unit within public health that has 9 employees and is responsible for community education, the community health needs assessment, public information, preparedness, women of worth recovery support, peer support specialist, and post-overdose response, and breaking through task force. Over the past 12 years, Roxana has made countless contributions to help improve the health and well-being of others in the community, most notably in the efforts of substance abuse prevention and recovery work. Under Roxana's leadership, Dare County has implemented a successful post-overdose response program, which expanded just recently to include mobile response services. In addition to the significant contributions Roxana has made in the substance abuse prevention and support arena, another area that makes her deserving of this special recognition is the leadership she provides to her team. She is well respected and valued by her peers and the team she leads. A number of her employees submitted nomination forms to support Roxana's selection, and I will share some of these comments now. Roxana always goes above and beyond for the community she works with and for her coworkers. She always shows such patience and understanding, no matter the circumstance. She encourages us and guides us to be the best we can within the field. I know we can always come to her with questions and guidance, and she never hesitates to help out. She is a team player and will do what she can to provide for her unit and for others. She always has a smile on her face and a funny remark to make us all laugh. Roxana is simply the best supervisor I've ever reported to. She is more than just my boss. She is a mentor, a coach when she needs to be, an advocate, and a friend. She is always the first person to volunteer when someone on her team needs help, whether it's assembling kits, attending work events, or dropping off food for someone who is sick. She's an incredible role model when it comes to balancing firm work, boundaries, and accountability with compassion and empathy. Roxana is a great leader that practices humility. She is focused and keeps a good attitude. I would not have set or achieved the goals that I have met in the last 2 years without her support, without her guidance. As the manager for the Health Education and Outreach Unit, Roxana leads our team with integrity, compassion, and dedication. She has fostered a collaborative and supportive work environment for her team. She encompasses everything you'd want in a leader and leads her team by example. Her staff can always count on her for support through difficult professional and personal times. Roxana inspires, empowers her team, and her ongoing support has changed my life both professionally and personally. You can tell by these comments how well respected and valued Roxana is and what a profound impact she has made on our staff and in the community. We are grateful for Roxana's service and her accomplishments. Celebrating her recognition with us today is most, if not all, of her staff. Her daughter, Debbie, was unable to make it here due to the weather. Roxana, congratulations, and thank you for all that you do.
I'm totally taken back. This was a total surprise, and I couldn't work with a better group of people, and all the accomplishments that we have. It means a lot, and it's important. It's important work. It really is. Thank you.
Well done, Roxana.
Well
Well
done.
done.
Thank you.
Next, if Jenny Collins would come forward to do our January Employee of the Month.
Good morning and Happy New Year,
Good
Commissioner.
morning.
She just told me, this is Nikki Caldwell. She goes, I'm never going anyplace with you again. So let me introduce Nikki and tell you about, she, by her title is administrative technician, but that doesn't nearly explain the value that she brings to our department. She is our EMS billing coordinator, so she interfaces with our billing company and interfaces with the public a lot. And when they have questions about their bill, they want a copy of their patient care record, or any of the sundry of questions that they might have related to their experience with EMS. And Nikki is that face that they interact with and talk to on the phone. And she is always polite and pleasant. Nikki has 5 years with the county, but just about a year with EMS. She's coming up close to that. And before, she was with the Department of Social Services also as an income worker, but she was assigned to Medicaid cases. So her knowledge of the Medicaid system was extremely valuable for us. And she, adding in the other health insurances, which is a maze to go through when you're coding and billing and things and answering questions, Nikki has handled with grace and a tremendous amount of positivity. She walked into the EMS department and we said, oh, by the way, this is always a team environment, and guess what? We need to move 3 stations. And so she was right there, rolled up her sleeves and helped pack and move and unpack and get all the stations situated without one complaint, and was that cheerful, dedicated employee that you're always hoping to have. In her assignment, usually the training and certifications that it takes somebody for the EMS billing side of it, she has done what most people do in 2 years in under a year. So she has been a go-getter, and there's nothing that stops her. So with our sincere appreciation, Nikki, thank you, and your nomination and award for County Employee of the Month.
Thank you, and I'm never going anywhere with her again.
Before we go to public comment, would those of you that received an award, please go right out through this door so we can have a picture made, please. Ladies and gentlemen, now's the time that's been set aside for public comment. If you have public comment and you have not signed up, raise your hand. I'll recognize you. When I do, please come to the podium. State your name and where you're from. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. There's a green light on the podium that will come on when your time begins. There's a yellow light that will come on when you have about a minute left. And when the red light comes on, please conclude your remarks. First on the list here, I have John Shinholscher. Okay. Next would be Jen Brandt.
Welcome, Ms. Brandt.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Jennifer Brandt, and I am from Hampton, Virginia, and I'm a licensed pharmacist in North Carolina and a mother of 5 children. I've practiced over 20 years, and my career has been spent entirely in this opioid epidemic. I've counseled patients, spoken to parents, and seen the firsthand effects. This morning, I'm speaking not just as a healthcare professional, but also as somebody who knows what happens when a dangerous substance goes unchecked and hides behind misinformation. I'm here to support your call to the North Carolina state legislator to have a statewide ban on the sale of Kratom, an opioid that's being sold in our backyards. This is not safe. It is a nuisance and a public threat. Last year, there were 1,489 calls to the Poison Control Center, and that doesn't include the hundreds of physicians and patients who were asking how to treat their withdrawal symptoms. In your state specifically, the CDC reported 117 deaths that involved Kratom, where Kratom was detected. The FDA Adverse Events Reporting System has over 400 cases involving Kratom, cases that outline effects as seizures, liver, cardiac events, withdrawal, and death. These are not isolated incidents. They are 100% preventable. This is how Kratom is being sold in stores across the state. They have no lot numbers, no expiration date. They're packaged for your child. They're sold steps away from your state's health department. There's no warning about addiction, seizures, death, no pregnancy warnings. This binds to the same receptors that any other opioid binds to, including fentanyl and heroin. And with it, you can have severe withdrawals, addiction, neonatal absence syndrome, where children are born in full withdrawals, and death. It's not just irresponsible, it's predatory. And many are surprised to learn that the FDA cannot ban Kratom. The FDA cannot ban a substance that it never approved in the first place. What the FDA can do is issue consumer alerts, which there are many on Kratom, and they can issue import alerts, like 54-15, an import alert banning Kratom from coming into this country. The way that this came into this country, it was mislabeled as fertilizer or labeled not for human consumption. I support everybody's personal freedom, but what freedom is there in addiction? And what freedom is it for the parents who have lost children to this substance, many not knowing it could be lethal? Autonomy is only right and fair and just if everybody has that same information. I understand that there are 2 million Americans estimated to be using Kratom. But the moral worth of your actions are how many people benefit from them. That there are 346 million Americans. That means 344 million Americans that do not benefit having an opioid sold in their backyard. For more information, I encourage you to visit the Kratom Danger Awareness. This is a group started by a mother who lost her son to Kratom. This is a group of over 500, and her work, her tireless work, has helped expose this truth and serves as a reminder of why we cannot wait. How many more lives need to be lost? This could be your child, your spouse, your family member. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Next, we have Spotswood Graves.
Good morning. I am still Spotswood Graves, and I live in Kill Devil Hills, have done so for 47 years. Today is a disturbing anniversary of what happened 4 years ago this very day. For this reason, I read an address by a president 77 years ago. Our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. We are now engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far beyond our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us here dedicated to the task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. Spoken November the 19th, 1863 in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, by the first Republican president of our nation.
Thank you, Spotswood.
Next is Pam Anderson.
Welcome this morning, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with the honorable commissioners today. My name is Pam Anderson, and I have provided local North Carolina licensed animal care services for 14 years. Currently, I own Ocean Sands Canine Resort, VIP Pet Taxi, Wedding Paws, and Rainbow Bridge Pet Cremation. I also owned and operated a North Carolina licensed animal shelter in Dare County for 8 years, Second Chance Canine Sanctuary, the same licensure currently held by our OB SPCA. I am also a retired euthanasia technician, supervise Miami, Florida Humane Society, and have a background in neuropsychology. At this very minute, on social media, a local resident is crying out for help because she cannot afford the staggering cost of humane euthanasia for her senior cat. And she cannot emotionally handle having her pet euthanized at the OB SPCA because they do not allow her to be with her pet during the euthanasia. This is a barrier way too high for many to cross for this service. Today, I speak to you as a member of the Many Paws Grannies group who advocate to change our local OB SPCA end-of-life policies for individually owned companion pets. We currently have an ongoing Change.org petition with hundreds of signatures. For the commissioners who have signed our petition, we thank you. For the ones that haven't, we ask you to reconsider your support. Our petition, once the petition closes, we will present it to Dare County to substantiate our community's support for the OB SPCA to change their owner surrender euthanasia policies. In addition to working on local changes, we are actively working on a state level to change the laws pertaining to shelter euthanasia for privately owned companion pets. The current North Carolina laws relating to this group do not recognize the American Veterinary Medical Association guidelines for euthanasia, which acknowledge the significant importance of the human companion animal bond during the end-of-life animal process. Until North Carolina laws change to provide protections for pets and their families, locally, our commissioners have the authority to put in place animal care and control policies which reflect the best interests of the pets and their families. We believe it is the responsibility for our commissioners to ensure our community's pets and their families have an affordable, compassionate end-of-life experience, which every resident is aware is available. This post on Facebook this morning showed the lack of information that this service is available in Dare County. The results of a policy which treats our pets community with dignity and respect will be our communities having a better opinion of our animal care and control services, increasing adoptions through better community relations, and making animal care more affordable. We also believe it is the responsibility of our commissioners to ensure the animal care and control services who you contract with fully execute their lease or face penalties. We must avoid a repeat of last year when the OB SPCA took 8 months and a lot of pressure to fully execute their lease. 8 months, Dare County residents were denied critical service information. All information about county services should be readily available to every resident, and we need strong policies to ensure the flow of that information, starting with our own county animal care and control website, providing companion pet euthanasia information, which it currently does not do. Compassionate, humane end-of-life care should not be a privilege for only those who can afford it. We have the power to be better. While North Carolina law has not kept up with the latest guidelines for euthanasia for animal shelters, this is not an excuse for us not to act. We can comply with the laws and easy workarounds, just as we have shown with returning animals' bodies through cremation services. But we don't need a workaround to allow pets to be with their families during euthanasia. This is a North Carolina law which prevents that. Solely an OBX SPCA policy. When a family with a 7-week-old baby kitten who is suffering with a congenital heart defect is faced with a $450 bill to humanely euthanize and cremate, after they've already spent hundreds of dollars in veterinary bills, is more than a week's pay, why wouldn't we do everything we can to ease their burden, reduce their cost to zero, and allow that family to be with their pet. It is simply the right thing to do. Dare County is the first colony. Dare County is first in flight. Dare County can be the first and a leader in compassionate pet care. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Lisa Panoski.
Thank you, Lisa, for being here this morning. We'll give a few minutes to get your mic. So.
We got
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm Lisa Panowski, owner of OBX Paparazzi, a custom dog bandana and pet clothing company. I've been involved in dog rescue and foster for many years and have adopted several special needs animals over the course of those years. My husband, Dave Panowski, is a former board president of the SPCA and worked closely with the shelter management to increase compliance with state laws and decrease the kill rate of the shelter, including working towards being a no-kill shelter. I'm also a member of the Many Paws Grannies group. Today I'm speaking on an issue close to my heart as I lost my precious dog Layla in October. And I did bring a picture of her, my little one-eyed pirate girl. Due to unforeseen financial emergencies, I was unable to afford to take Layla to the vet for euthanasia. Not having heard about the Outer Banks SPCA offering euthanasia, which was not available when my husband was associated with the organization, I put in an evening call to Coastal Humane. Layla passed away within an hour of showing symptoms of her illness, and before Coastal Humane had the opportunity to call me back. This was very distressing because without those unexpected bills, I would have been able to take her to the vet for euthanasia. I feel like I failed my girl. This is the heartbreak many families feel. Families like me who would have been right with their pet until they passed, if allowed. Peace and closure should not be a privilege based on finances. The commissioners should demand that the SPCA make their euthanasia policy known in the community. Additionally, the commissioners should work with the SPCA to update those policies to allow pets to have their family comfort them in those final moments instead of being surrounded by scary strangers as they go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bill Coleman.
Welcome this morning, Bill.
Good morning. I'm Bill Coleman. I'm the Executive Director of the Outer Banks SPCA and the Dare County Animal Shelter. And I want to take a moment to invite the newest commissioners to come and take a tour. I'd be happy to show you around. You all have a beautiful building. We have a great staff, and I'd like to welcome you to come see what we do. I want to give you a couple updates. One is that we've been doing the Operation Homeless Cats, which is a spay-neuter program for feral cats. And we're in year 3, and we've done, anybody want to guess? 800, oh, go ahead. I already said it.
300, I was going to say 350, Bill. I used to be up on it, but I'm not anymore.
Yeah, 850.
Wow.
I know, and when I first started this program, somebody said, "Oh, there's at least 1,000 cats, feral cats," and I thought, "No way," but apparently there are.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's very successful, and I appreciate your all support as well. Another issue that you may have read about on social media or in the newspaper or whatever is we've had a problem with raccoons. Excuse me, having distemper, a canine distemper virus. And so it began, and we sent probably a dozen raccoons to the state wildlife, and they tested them, and that's where we determined what it was that happened. Since that time, people say, oh, you're not addressing this, but I want you to know that we've had over 50 raccoons that we've pulled in and euthanized that have the symptoms of this disease. And we put a warning out that, you know, it can be transmitted to dogs, not to cats, people ask that, but to dogs. And so we've tried to tell people to make sure their dogs are vaccinated for that. And we continue to fight it. Most of it has been in Southern Shores. Don't know why, but that's where the bulk of that is. Anyways, we continue to do that. Our animal control goes out. When we get a call about a raccoon that's basically kind of lethargic, sitting there, you can poke it, it won't go anywhere, we know that's the symptoms of the problem. Lastly, you know, I hate to have to address Pam Anderson again. She does not like what we're doing. She has filed a formal complaint with the state about our facility, which got a pretty scathing reply from the head of the department, Dr. Patricia Norris. She's the director of animal welfare services in the veterinary division of the Department of Agriculture. And, you know, first I'll preface this and say the whole euthanasia, owner-surrendered euthanasia, last year we had 8. No one requested to go back with their animal. This is not some big issue. Number 2, we don't have to do it. You guys don't have it in our contract. It's not in the state contract. It's something that we decided we would do it when someone approached us to say, can you help me? And we do. But just to understand the process, we can't work on animals that are not ours. Okay, so someone comes in to surrender their animal for euthanasia, they literally have to surrender it to us. That's what happens.
Bill?
Yes.
What if they don't surrender the animal to the ownership or control of, I'm speaking to the director, thank you, of an animal?
Then we can't do it.
So it's not like you're an open-door pro bono veterinary clinic offering euthanasia services?
Right.
Okay.
And to your point, you said veterinary clinic. We have a vet who works 2 days a week. The people that primarily do the euthanasias are what are called CETs, Certified Euthanasia Technicians. And I have a third one coming on board. And doing euthanasias is not a fun thing. It's not something my staff likes to do. It's very heartbreaking for all of us there when it happens. And, you know, we deal with it all the time. And I can tell you, my employees would say, if you're going to make people come back there and make this a thing, then we're not going to do it anymore. And I can't really force them to. I mean, I can, I suppose, but I'm not going to. There was a letter that the head of the department, Dr. Patricia Norris, wrote to Pam and copied me on it. And she said, to my knowledge of the approximately 100 animal shelters in North Carolina that employ CETs, not a single shelter permits families to be with their pets during euthanasia or invites the public to view the euthanasia of animals surrendered to the shelter or other animals impounded by the shelter. If they did, I would counsel very strongly against this practice for the following reasons. And she gave 7 reasons. I'm not going to sit here and read them all to you. But again, we're regulated by the state of North Carolina and this department. And that's where this has all been going. I see my time's up. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bill.
Is there any other public comment this morning? Yes, sir.
Welcome this morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chairman. I had no intention to come here and speak today, but after the timely and passionate presentation by the lady here who is a pharmacist and knows what she's talking about, I feel compelled to say something. Early last year, I contacted Senator Bobby Hanig with regard to a drug called tianeptine, also known as gas station heroin, to get it removed and made illegal in North Carolina. A bill was entered to do this, and Kratom was included in that bill. It passed in the North Carolina Senate, but when it went to the North Carolina House, Kratom was removed from that bill. Tianeptine was still made illegal. Speaking as co-chair of Saving Lives Task Force, I want the board to know that we totally support the resolution today. Thank you, Irvin, for putting this forward. And any support, further support that we can offer to the board, we'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Walt.
Any other public comment this morning? Seeing none here, is there any public comment from Buxton?
Yes. Our first speaker is Teresa Ham.
No, you're going to get the CAFR.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Teresa Ham, Cape Hatteras Motel in Buxton. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this morning. I would like to ask for your assistance in a few items this morning. One is we have been trying for several months to get a sandbag permit for our motel and have not been able to get that completed. So any assistance you could provide would be appreciated. Also, I'd like to bring attention to the crosswalks. I know that that was a subject of conversation in the last commissioners meeting, and I feel that we definitely need some crosswalks here in Buxton, especially between Cape Hatteras Motel and the Outer Banks Motel. Many people cross the road. There's Fatty's Eatery across the street, and it becomes very dangerous sometimes as people are coming into Buxton, have not slowed down, and we have our guests and visitors that are trying to safely cross the road. So any assistance that you can help with that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Wendy Munden.
Welcome, Ms. Munden.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to congratulate our new commissioners, and I want to thank y'all for coming down and visiting Hatteras Island last month, coming to our Christmas parade, coming to the meet and greet at the inn. As you saw when you were here, our island has numerous issues that are needing your attention. So not just Buxton, but Hatteras Island as a whole. From our roads to our inlets to cleaning up abandoned properties and adding sidewalks and crosswalks. We hope to see what your plans are for 2025 and moving forward with those things. Also, as you know, Buxton Civic Association has accomplished a lot in 2025, and we plan to continue in 2025. Got my dates mixed up there. And for that, we ask for your help. So we'd like to continue going to those NC BIWA meetings. And for that, we may be asking for funding because we feel that it's important for Hatteras Island to be represented. And those things are expensive. We also ask that you help us finish resolving the flood site, which we're very happy in everything that's moving forward with that. We'd like to find a solution for the roads coming into Buxton, coming into Pea Island. We can't get tax dollars from Hatteras Island if we aren't able to get here. If my kids can't go to school, if my husband can't get to work, these are all very big issues for us, and especially right there at North Buxton for the Civic Association is a huge thing for us. Finally is jetties, or any way of stabilizing the beach in a responsible fashion, and that ties in with our roads. So we really just ask in 2025 for y'all's assistance in these matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Munden.
Next is Jeff Dawson.
Howdy.
Morning, Jeff.
Morning. I kind of want to just reiterate a lot of what Wendy said. Sorry to, be a mockingbird, but she's right. We have, a fairly unified voice down here. First of all, like she said, I want to thank y'all for coming out of the Christmas parade. That was the most commissioners I've ever seen at the Christmas parade. That was really, really cool to see y'all there. I want to thank you for your help. Last time I was in this room, I watched the entire board go after Colonel Sturgeon to try and help us get the flood site fixed. Look what happened. More than they said they would ever even start to do. They've already removed the structures. I mean, it's an incredible thing. It's amazing what we can do when we all work together. So again, thank you very, very much for that. As Wendy mentioned, the BCA did a lot in 2024. We will continue in 2025. This isn't just a beach advocacy thing. We put Christmas lights up. We've trying to do our very best with what little funding we have for the community. So we would appreciate any kind of assistance there. Let's see, we want to continue to go to the bylaw meetings. We want to continue to bring a positive message about Hatteras Island. We also desperately want to, bring awareness to the jeopardy that NC-12 is in. It's not so much, I mean, the highway's in jeopardy in North Buxton, but the entire oceanfront of Buxton is in jeopardy. I guess next month when we come present to you, you'll see some of the drone footage and whatnot that we took and brought to the bylaw meeting and got such positive responses with. And we would love to just continue to stay on the flood site, make sure that it doesn't get swept under the rug. It's, again, amazing things have happened there, and we couldn't be happier that, the support we've had from y'all. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for setting this up so that we don't have to drive all the way to Manio just to come talk to you. This has all been amazing, and we'd love to just continue our working relationship. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Next is Jay Phillips.
There, let me take my ears interested in this stuff. I'm happy to pass it around. And I'm going to dig in this.
Okay, I can see it.
Thanks. I've got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome this morning, Mr. Phillips.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Jay Phillips. I've lived here since about 2011, and I'm the executive director of the Hatteras Community Sailing Program in Buxton. I'd like to briefly introduce you to our organization. Hatteras Community Sailing was founded in 2020 in Avon by my wife and I and a small board of directors. It was approved later by the IRS as a 501c3. For those not familiar, we're members of U.S. Sailing and its regional counterpart, the Atlantic Yacht Racing Association, which are groups that set the standards for the sport of sailing and sailing competitions, widely accepted by nearly all yacht clubs, sailing associations, boating organizations, and community sailing programs. To be specific, we're a community sailing organization. This is expressly designed to be inclusive to everyone in the community, unlike prestigious yacht clubs, which are sometimes expensive and exclusive. Maintaining our standing in these organizations requires participating in training, certification programs at all levels, from youth to adult, and everything from coaching, powerboating safety, safe sport training, facilities management, risk management, and so on. In general, it's the highest standard for the sport in the country, and it's administered by the hundreds of participating members like ourselves at regional annual conferences and national training symposiums. From 2020 to 2022, Hatteras Sailing grew like a wildfire because of COVID. Kids were itching to get out and play, and no other sports were available. As mainstream sports came back online, we found ourselves back to baseline participation, which was still pretty good when we looked around and compared ourselves to other successful programs in the country. We carefully grew our participation levels from OPI sailors, which are age 6 to 13, for the first couple of years, and then we added high school age sailing on 420s, and figured out the complexities of joining SASA, the South Atlantic Interscholastic Intercollegiate Sailing Association, and we created a high school composite team that is now sailing in its 5th season. and attending large regional events in Charleston, Lake Norman, Riceville Beach, Lake Jordan, and Beaufort. Through consistent training and effort on behalf of the kids and the coaches, we now have high school kids getting their U.S. sailing instructor certifications this year. So we have better certified coaches to help train more youth. We have Opti sailors graduating into talented high school sailors. On 420, we have our first tier of high school grads getting into collegiate sailing teams at NC State, hopefully the Naval Academy, and one is currently participating in her first year at SUNY Maritime, working on a future merchant mariner career. Hatteras and Dare County youth are making a name for themselves against kids from extremely well-established, highly staffed organizations like Carolina Yacht Club, established 1853, Hampton Yacht Club, Fishing Bay Yacht Club, Charleston Yacht Club, Annapolis Yacht Club, and Southern Sailing Association. This year we had 6 youth recognized by SARA, the South Atlantic Yacht Racing Association, for their Grand Prix racing team. One thing stands out for us here in Dare County, and that is we have accessibility to great natural resources of the ocean and the Sound, and much better summer wind conditions as our wind knows in the Chesapeake. While we'd love to say it's the coaching, there's some greatly underutilized natural resources. We don't really see a lot of boats out on the bay, especially down here. Hatteras Secondary, which we're located within walking distance of, has its own beach and docks, which is not the norm for secondary schools around the country. But we're not just about competitive sailing, and if you dig in deeper into our programs and potential programs, we're about boat building, sail making, boat maintenance and repair, powerboat training, recreational and commercial fishing, nature and environmental sustainability. So the point here, I'm going to cut it short, is we're making great strides. The families and kids that participate are benefiting greatly. We have the potential to dial it up to even greater levels of excellence, but we need your help. So I'm before you today to ask that you consider Hatteras Sailing for the North Carolina Building Reuse Grant and any other possible funding opportunities that may fit the situation. The old fish house is a rare opportunity with a building footprint that the people of Hatteras Island and Dare County deserve to have preserved and improved for future use to promote and nurture our youth to our mission, which is a lifelong passion for seamanship. Help us find a way to make this great program sustainable and a permanent asset to the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Anybody else? No further comment from Buxton.
And that would end our public comment. We move to item 5 on the agenda, and this is a presentation concerning the OBX Jeep invasion, and I would turn that over to Commissioner House.
Thank you, County Manager. I'm going to head down to the podium if y'all don't mind to do this presentation. Thank you all for allowing me the time to do this. Our Register of Deeds, Cheryl House, if you'll come up too as well. This past September, the Outer Banks Jeep Invasion held its annual fundraising event, the Jeep Invasion itself. I'm here as the president of the Outer Banks Jeep Charities that manages the money end of it. Cheryl House here is also part of the OBX Jeep Invasion, the executive committee, in which the executive committee plans everything for the Jeep Invasion. So unfortunately, a lot of our people could not be here today. So we have myself from the charity group and Cheryl from the executive committee to represent the Outer Banks Jeep Invasion. We had over 640 Jeeps invade the Outer Banks. And this whole Jeep Invasion is to raise funds for our local charities. One of the main things that we do, that we were able to do this year, was to raise $40,000 so that we could give to local charities. And this is a downsize from previous years, and we had to do that because we had to reorganize everything. So we knew that was going to happen. one of our main things that we always wanted to do with all of our Jeeps was to make sure that our underprivileged children in our area had Christmas. So we donated quite a few toys to the Virginia Tillett Toy Drive. And also we got a call from Currituck for their Angel Tree. They had about 3 families that were not sponsored. So within 3 days of that call, those kids had Christmas. The other places we'd like to donate to, we'll get into that in just a few minutes. But I would also like to thank OBX Jeep dealership here, huge supporter of us with the financial and not only their general sponsorship of the program. Also the town of Kitty Hawk for allowing us to go on the beach in Kitty Hawk with our Jeeps, which, as you know, they don't allow driving on the beach. And with those, we wanted to thank the Kitty Hawk Police Department and the Kitty Hawk Fire Department and Ocean Rescue. They actually escorted us on and off the beach. It was great to see the Kitty Hawk Police Department, their four-wheel drive vehicle on the beach, along with the four-wheel drive vehicle from the fire department with the flags flying and escorting us on the beach. I had a video set up, but unfortunately we're having technical difficulties. And unlike you, Bob, I got a thumbs down. I would really like for y'all to see that video. It's a cute little two-minute video, kind of goes over the whole site.
We got to bring it back, Steve. When we get it fixed or whatever, we got to see it.
We'll see it.
Okay.
Also want to thank Walmart. Without their support for the toy drive, they actually opened up, believe it or not, a special register with one cashier to run it all through instead of trying to do it all on the self-checkout. So that was great for them. And also the Dare County Sheriff's Office. They led us in an escort from Walmart to the Virginia Tillett Center to deliver these presents. So I can't thank them enough as well. On our Jeep Charities Board, I have myself as president, Rich Paul is the vice president, Jared Weibley, who is the other junior vice president, Kim Jones is our secretary, and Carrie Colson is our treasurer. Tracy Colson was this year's director for the Outer Banks Jeep Invasion. His leadership and the team he put together put on an excellent show for us with very little to no hiccups at all, which was something that was always had problems with in the past. We've gotten those straightened out with his leadership, and I can't thank him enough for stepping up and doing that for us. This year, we have some very special champions with us today. Sandy Pace, can you bring your athletes up? Hey.
How are you? I'm doing fine.
All right.
He's all right. He can talk. How are you?
I'm sure most of us are familiar with the astounding athletes that are around me right now. These wonderful people can show you that a disability is not a disability. It's a way to move forward. And these wonderful champions that we have with us are representatives of the Dare County Special Olympics. And Sandy,
hey,
with with the Outer Banks Jeep Invasion, we support you, every single one of you. Yep. So I'd like to present you a check from the Outer Banks Jeep Invasion, the Outer Banks Jeep Charities Group, $3,500. And I cannot thank these guys enough for representing us. If you know from the past few years, we've actually sent quite a few of our athletes here in Dare County to the state Special Olympics. And Sandy, I think we've sent a couple into national, if not sure.
Yes, we've had a couple go to nationals. Caroline actually went to nationals last time in Orlando, Florida.
All right.
in bowling, and we've got hopefully a couple going next year to Minneapolis. So, but yes, they're traveling all over the state competing.
All right.
We have two of our athletes that are actually won the entire state in swimming.
Nice.
So yes.
So there's your Dare County champions right there, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys, and thank you commissioners for your continued support. Special Olympics does not happen without community support. There's nobody paid to coach, to volunteer, to do any of the work. And we have to raise every dime in order for them to be able to show you what they're all about and show you what they can do. So without your support, it doesn't happen. And it takes about $55,000 to $65,000 a year to run our program. We have over 130 registered athletes in Dare. We also serve Kratom. We also have some athletes that attend with us from Elizabeth City and the Camden area because of the programming that we have. So we just want to say thank you. And our next big fundraising event, we hope to see you all there. I know everyone will be there and Rob will be there. It's our polar plunge.
I was trying to avoid eye contact.
February 15th, and my motto is if you don't want to plunge, that's fine. You can pay up.
There you go.
What is on that sweatshirt? What am I reading?
Says, let's get chilly.
Let's get chilly. I could read it. I just wanted you to see.
Yes, they wore them on purpose to entice you all to come on and join us.
All right, everybody listening, February 15th at Jeanette's Pier, am I right?
Yes.
At 11 a.m., kind of opening ceremony and
At 10, and we're opening ceremonies at 11, and then all the talking happens prior to the plunge at 11:30. You plunge and you get your towel and you go home.
I've already got it on my calendar.
what?
I'm going.
Yeah.
I've been prepping for it.
We're opening up the house, all are
I have.
invited.
This is the first year at a fall state competition, we actually sent a team of bocce players from Hatteras. The school has allowed them to start coming up to practices and busing them up here, and we had a Hatteras-only team at bocce, and they won the bronze medal.
Yay.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for your continued support that you do. You've always been big supporters and always come out to our events. So we appreciate you, and we look for you at spring games again to pass out.
We'll be there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Em, you coming? You gonna stay here all day? You are, David? I don't know.
Another group that we decided to donate to, it's, if you see any Jeep running around, and if you notice a lot of T-shirts with Jeeps on it, you also notice a dog. Jeeps and pets are kind of go hand in hand. And with that, Bill, if you'll come up. On behalf of the Outer Banks Jeep Invasion, OBX Jeep Charities, we'd like to donate to the Dare County SPCA $3,500.
Thank you. Thank you. Wish I had a little junk to give you. Gee, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I always appreciate your
All right.
help. Thank you.
Yeah. And I've got one more check to give out. Unfortunately, Brooke couldn't make it here today. But Jeeps are synonymous with our veterans. And us as a group think very highly of our veterans, especially those that actually have something in common with the Jeep. I've mentioned this before, but there's only one inanimate object that has ever been awarded the Purple Heart, and that is Jeep. And it sits in the Jeep's name is Old Faithful, and she sits in the Marine Corps Museum in Virginia. So our wounded warriors who have received a Purple Heart, I think twice a year they come down as part of a group, and the Wounded Warriors in Action give them a week-long of duck hunting and fishing and camaraderie between themselves. It's It's very touching to see them when we escort them in or when we escort them out of the county. And I can't tell you how many people have lined the roads in their support as we go up and down. Wounded Warriors in Action, like a lot of other charities, this year have been hurt by what's been going on in Western North Carolina. A lot of the nonprofits and stuff donate to what's going on there, and rightfully so. Our people in northern part of or the western part of the state need our help as well. And I know Brooke has been working very hard this year to get funding for what's going on with them. And we wanted to reach out to her as well, and I'll get this check to her later on today. But on behalf of the Outer Banks Jeep Charities Group and the Outer Banks Jeep Invasion, I'll be presenting her a check for $6,000 to help our wounded warriors. And with that, coming up in September 2025, we'll be doing it all again. One of the big exciting things coming up for the Jeep Invasion, we have a country music national recording artist who will be with us and doing a concert with us as well, the Daniel Jordan Band. So definitely come on down, and I challenge all of y'all to buy a Jeep and come out to the Jeep Invasion and help us celebrate again with this, and hopefully we can raise some more money for our local charities. Thank you again for having us, and thank you for supporting us.
Thank you, Steve. County Manager?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. That brings us to item 6 on the agenda. In your packet, you had a letter that we received from the Board of Education requesting an increase in the sums that are paid to their board members. That number hasn't been changed. It says in the letter, in over 25 years, they're requesting it to be changed from the current $4,200 per year to $13,000 a year, and for the chair's position from $5,400 per year to $14,200 a year. I also have in my packet a letter that says even those numbers are lower than what's being paid in Currituck currently, so it's on par with surrounding communities. So with that said, I'll leave it to the board.
Okay, thank you, County Manager. Pleasure of the board. Motion to approve. There's a motion to approve by Commissioner Bateman.
I will second that.
Been seconded by Commissioner Balance and Ross.
I don't even need to discuss it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
No.
Hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
That brings us to item 7 on the agenda. At our last meeting, you all asked us to prepare a resolution regarding the standalone bill banning the over-the-counter sale of Kratom in the state of North Carolina. We've prepared that resolution, and it's in your packet, and it's for you to discuss and decide how to proceed.
Bobby, how about, before we go any further, how about reading that resolution, if you will, so we can, that'll give us all an individual time, and I'm happy to hear from Ms. Brand again if we have any questions of her.
Yeah, we do.
As well as, I believe, Commissioner Bateman has a gentleman here that would like to speak. But if you'll read that resolution first.
Sure. This is a resolution in support of a standalone bill banning the over-the-counter sale of Kratom in the state of North Carolina. Whereas the Dare County Board of Commissioners recognizes the importance of ensuring the safety, health, and well-being of its residents and visitors, particularly concerning access to and potential use of any substances that are not regulated by federal health authorities. And whereas Kratom, a substance derived from the leaves of the Mitragina speciosa tree native to Southeast Asia, is currently sold over the counter and online in various forms, including powders, capsules, and teas, and is marketed as an herbal or dietary supplement for its purported benefits, such as pain relief, enhanced energy, mood improvement, and alleviation of opioid withdrawal symptoms. And whereas despite these marketed benefits, Kratom is not approved or regulated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, leading to significant variability in its composition, potency, and safety, and presenting potential health risks to consumers. And whereas numerous studies and reports have documented potential dangers associated with the kratom use, including but not limited to severe side effects such as nausea, vomiting, respiratory depression, addiction, psychosis, and seizure, as well as its potential to interact dangerously with other substances. And whereas the unregulated sale of kratom has created widespread access to a substance that can be easily abused, particularly by individuals struggling with substance abuse disorders, exacerbating the risk of dependency, relapse, and other adverse outcomes. And whereas the use of kratom has been linked to several instances of several health complications and fatalities, including cases where kratom was identified as a contributing factor in overdose deaths, emphasizing the need for greater regulatory oversight and public health safeguards. And whereas the availability of kratom in convenience stores and online markets with minimal restrictions enables its misuse by vulnerable populations, including minors and those seeking unregulated alternatives to controlled substances, thus contributing to broader public health and safety concerns. And whereas currently 6 U.S. states, Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Wisconsin, have completely banned the sale and possession of kratom to protect their communities from the associated risk, listing kratom's active alkaloids, metrogen 7 and hydrametrogene, as controlled substances due to concerns related to potential abuse, safety issues, and lack of FDA regulation. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dare County Board of Commissioners calls upon the North Carolina General Assembly to enact a standalone bill prohibiting the over-the-counter sale of kratom, effectively reducing access to this unregulated and potentially dangerous substance within the state. Be it further resolved that the Dare County Board of Commissioners believes that such a measure is essential to safeguarding public health, preventing misuse, and addressing the growing concerns regarding kratom's impact on individuals and families struggling with substance abuse disorders. Be it further resolved that this resolution be submitted to the Governor of North Carolina, members of the North Carolina General Assembly, and all other relevant state and local stakeholders to underscore the urgency of legislative action to regulate and ban the over-the-counter sale of kratom, this the 6th day of January 2024.
Thank you, County Manager. The board is open for discussion, and I'm going to yield to Commissioner Bateman first, if you folks will allow me to. He has quite a bit of information on this that he'd like to share with us.
Bob, before I do my share, if I could get John Shinholz, I would let you know that I put myself out there the last week, and so I received numerous calls. And John is one of the guys who has called me. He is an advocate for kratom, and had a conversation with him. It was very enlightening. We agreed on some things. Some things we maybe not so much do agree on, but I think at this point we need to have all the information possible to have at our disposal in order to make a rational decision. After he speaks, then I would like to get through with my presentation.
Absolutely.
And if you don't mind, John, please.
Thank you for coming, John, this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners, for having me. I'm John Shinholz. I'm the Advocacy Director for American Veterans for Kratom Safe. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran, and actually, I'm also in recovery, an old-timer in recovery. I got clean and sober in 1982 in between my second and third deployment, gifts from my battalion commander, the brig, rehab. So I went to rehab. Worked out. Now, what's significant about my experience is in 2004, me and my wife founded a recovery community center in Virginia, which consequently turned into a national model. So we're very experienced with addiction, recovery, products being used for recovery purposes. And back in 2000, maybe 12, kratom came up on our drug test, and I didn't know what kratom was. So I started asking the kids, what is this stuff? And two important factors about this was, number one, we didn't know they were on anything. So it wasn't like it was a debilitating substance they were taking. They were saying stuff, well, it helped me detox, it helped me with anxiety, I got PTSD. I said, where do you learn about this? Sure enough, there was a local guy that actually packages and sells and imports kratom in the Richmond, Virginia community, which is where I'm from. So I went over there to talk to the guy. And I'm thinking I'm going to go in there and bust some heads, you know, because this just doesn't look good selling it next to bath salts in vape stores. Well, long story short, I spent the last 10 years getting educated about this. So I've been like down in the trenches watching this product. What's it all about? I've been around the country. I've visited Kratom consumer communities around the nation. And make a long story short, there's a caveat of consumers out there that when they dialed back on the prescription prescribing, you know, 10 years ago because of the OxyContin epidemic, legitimate pain folks, they turned to the internet. What can we use to solve our pain problem? Then they ran across Kratom. And then opiate addicts trying to get off of opiates, and I've seen this myself many times. These kids come into the 12-step meetings, they're jonesing really bad, and you know, I'll say, look, I'll get you in front of a Suboxone doctor on a Monday morning. You know, I'll help you get detox. Well, in the meantime, you know, they go to the vape store, they get some Kratom, and it helps them with their detox symptoms. Now, I didn't believe that. So about in 2018, we did a little pilot survey. We took 30 addicts off the street and put them in sober living for a week and gave them access to Kratom. And within a week, 29 out of 30 successfully detoxed using Kratom as a detox tool. And I'm thinking, well, you know, why doesn't everybody know about this? Well, come to find out, there are over 500 scientific studies done on Kratom right now, close to 100 peer-reviewed. I got them right here. This is one of the fastest, rapidly studied products out there. Johns Hopkins right now is doing clinical trials, human clinical trials on Kratom. NIDA, National Institute of Drug Abuse, has invested about $100 million. Nora Volkart, the director of NIDA, testified to Congress that this may be the best emerging tool we get for our opiate crisis. Well, here and then now we get into regulations. The thing is, Kratom needs to be regulated because as a result of its popularity, a lot of renegade products have popped up, adulterated products. So basically what we got is the Kratom, the American Kratom Association with the good Kratom producers, and you got a bunch of pirates out there flooding the markets with garbage and trash. What the pharmacist brought up here, that's an illegal adulterated product in Virginia. Virginia passed the Kratom Consumer Protection Act a couple years ago. These products aren't allowed in Virginia. If they are, you report them, and then, you know, they'll get in trouble. And the reason the FDA doesn't regulate Kratom and ban it because they can't. They can't ban it because it doesn't pass the 8-factor analysis test that Congress passed in 1994, the Shea Act, which authorizes the FDA to ban products. So it is a, you know, it's an allowable product. It has use, but it is adulterated, it is abused, and we're trying to dial all of this in and help people make sense about it. Because if you ban Kratom, what you're going to do is hurt millions of consumers that use it appropriately, the adult responsible consumers that use it appropriately for their pain. And then the addiction world doesn't have access to it. And then now here's another thing. Not only does it help with opiate, every day we get emails and testimonies on how to help people stop drinking and help them stop doing meth and other illegal substances. So, and also, the products you sell in a where you got the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, the manufacturers have to use the FDA regulatory guidelines for good manufacturing practices. So you know what's on every batch. It's got directions, how to use it, what not to do, the dates on it, and all that stuff. So, you know, we're in a like a free-for-all zone right now nationally. And that Kratom Danger Awareness Group, you know, we've reached out to them and said, look, what is your real beef here? Well, come to find out, it's alleged that the trial lawyers that are suing these Kratom manufacturers, they're teeing up these groups out there to, you know, to attack us, and we appreciate the dialogue and want to know how can we resolve the issues here. And you hear a lot about Kratom deaths emerging, you know, Kratom-related deaths. I got news for you. Most of these deaths, as tragic as they are and painful as they are, there's other extenuating circumstances. You know, you might have an opiate addict strung out on fentanyl. He can't get it his drugs, so he takes Kratom for a couple of days. Then he takes some fentanyl, and the fentanyl is what's killing him. He just happens to have Kratom in his system. Or you might have a heavy drug user or alcohol user that they take Kratom as a supplement, and it's something else killing people, and Kratom is just present. It is so difficult to find a standalone leaf Kratom death. I'm not sure one does exist, but if it does, we would like to, be able to analyze that death and drill down exactly what caused this death. So a lot of moving parts here, and these adulterated products, here's the problem with them. Some of them they will test as Kratom, but they're not Kratom because they have Kratom alkaloids in them. There's a product called 7-OH, full agonist. The scientists are warning America about it. We warned the FDA about it. They're not doing anything about it because they're trying to destroy the whole Kratom industry as a whole. So we have a lot of evidence, a lot of information. We know the good, the bad, the ugly. We're busting our butts trying to get everybody to, to see the truth here. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but understand the science. We bring evidence and science, and I believe y'all got a PowerPoint my colleague sent y'all. If you would just kind of go through that, that's just a snippet of the evidence and the science out there. So I don't think, we just don't want you to ban it or suggest ban it. We want you to suggest regulating it because regulation is the appropriate steps to take. And I do welcome some questions and thoughts about this because, I'm like, a lot of information quick, but I might have the answer to your question.
Thank you, John. And we're going to ask you to hang tight. I'm
Okay.
going to let Commissioner Bateman go through his comments, and then if we have some questions, we will certainly ask you to come back.
I'll be right here if you need me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Commissioner Bateman?
Yes, sir. Like I said, I've got to be really open-minded about this. As we've talked before, my opinion in recovery is 100% abstinence from everything, complete. So this is taking me out of my comfort zone and what I'm hearing from John and from other folks. Although I've got to be understanding that my way is not always the right way. Having said that, I put myself out there, and this weekend I got over 10 calls from individuals, and I will tell you those 10 calls, only 2 of them came from the state of North Carolina. The majority of them came from advocates, Utah, Tennessee, New Jersey, other states, because this group is very organized that John belongs to. What I heard in those conversations with those people, every story was legit. Every story was someone who was in Afghanistan and had a major leg issue and a problem and been on heroin for 15 years and then found Kratom, and now their life is complete. The Kratom they're buying is Kratom they buy over the internet. This is not something you go into a grocery store or a gas station and buy. It's 100% pure Kratom. It's unadulterated. It's not an extract. So we're looking at 2 different kind of products. And this is what I've learned. I'm just sharing these things with you, not being opinionated, but I think we need to all understand that we're talking about 2 different things. What the young lady brought here, I went to the store here less than a quarter mile from a school and bought this. There's nothing on this bag at all that says what's in it. It just says it has, roughly speaking, 200 pills in it. And it's got gelatin mixed with it. There's no weight. It doesn't give any recommendation how many you should take.
What kind of store did you buy that in? I'm not asking for a name of the store, but what type of store?
Gas station.
A gas station?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just what this lady's talking about right here. This should be illegal. And it's within a quarter mile of a school. In North Carolina, you have to be 18 years old to buy this. This is the extract. This is the bad stuff here. It shouldn't even be sold in their state. It's terrible, I don't know what the answer is. I do know that it's causing havoc amongst families, and it's not good for the recovery community. There's no labeling. There's no purity content. There's nothing that says when you buy this stuff what you're really ingesting in your body. Some of it has salmonella in it. I'm sure that you have read about it. They have tests, but they have salmonella and all kinds of traces of minerals and things that are not good for you because it's not regulated, because of the fact that it's done strictly for dollars and cents for some guys to make money. And that's the concern I have. Talked to Bobby Haney this morning at 6 o'clock. When they got back, our senator, he's up at 4 o'clock. I texted him at 5:25. He called me back at 6. The resolution, he knows about the resolution that we did, and he wants to regulate this. I told him, I said, we have two different products, had the same conversation I just had with y'all. We have two different products. What are we going to do about it? We need to save our kids. You know, on the bottom of the thing here, it says, caring for a community, a nurturing place where we can all live. How these decisions will impact our children and our families. That's what we're about here, you know, making a difference. In the conversation with Bobby, I said, what should we do as a board? What do you recommend? He explained as chairman, as Mr. Wally Odman said, that it got killed last year and they're planning on bringing it up again. Not to ban it, but to regulate it, to make it under controlled substance so you would go in and get a prescription for it. I've been told after that conversation that you can't control something that's not legal because it's not a controlled legal something to prescribe. How's a physician going to prescribe something that's not even designated by the FDA? So therefore, you cannot write a prescription for something. So we're back at square one again. Georgia just passed a rule in their state and went into effect on Wednesday. Very, very strict regulations. You have to be 21 years old. You have to have labeling on the product. It cannot be sold as a vape. The people that sell it have to go to school for it. It's about 15 different things in those regulations that puts it where it keeps it out of the hands and keeps the bad stuff out of the hands of the people that would sell it. I don't know where we should go with this. I know that I don't want to have one more child, one more person affected by this drug because it's a bad one. In the same conversation of those 10 people that called, I also got a call from a mom who lost a son. And she is distraught, upset. She has an advocate group that's on the other side of John. So that's what I found out. I don't know which way this board should go, but I want you to have all the information that I had. Let's talk about it.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I too have had those same phone calls. John, let me ask you this, if you don't mind. And this brings up a good point, and I want us to really, really pay attention to what the therefores are on this resolution. First being enact a standalone bill prohibiting the over-the-counter sale of kratom. John, from the positive side, of the folks that are getting, and according to Commissioner Bateman, and I believe yourself, there are two different forms of this, and that's the gas station form, and then there's the true form. How are your folks getting this product that is making a positive impact on their life? Are they buying the gas station product?
Most of the true kratom consumers, they consume genuine, authentic kratom products. Now, if it's coming from a protected state, they can only sell good manufacturing practice products in that state. GMP, which is the FDA regulatory guidelines for manufacturing dietary and botanical substances. And like the GNC store, you can't buy anything in there if it doesn't have exactly what's in it, how to use it, what to do, what not to do. Don't use it if you're pregnant, you got thyroid conditions. So those products do exist. But Mr. Bateman was correct that there's a market for these adulterated, cheap products where people can make profit on them. We're trying to put those people out of business. They don't belong in this business. They're destroying families, lives in our industry. So they do have access. You can buy it. There are some stores you can buy good products, but there's a lot of places you can buy trash, but you can buy good products off the internet as well.
Gotcha. And the other, therefore be it resolved, is we're trying to stress the urgency to the state legislature to regulate it, especially the over-the-counter sale of Kratom. So if I'm one of those 29 of 30 people that it's helped that you mentioned, I can still get it, but I have to get it online. Is that right?
Yeah, well, yes, sir. There are some local communities that do ban the sale, and then those people do buy it online, or they cross the county line, or states will cross the state line. But here's the problem, like Arkansas and Alabama, there's a couple states, because these banned states all happened 2018 or prior. This is an old ban based on the DEA 2016 hysteria call that they're getting ready to ban it. So a couple states jumped out there and banned it, but they Scheduled I it up there with fentanyl and other drugs. So if you get caught with Kratom in these banned states, that's a felony. You're going to prison, and we have documented cases where people were using it appropriately in a banned state, and they either got killed in jail while waiting to go to prison, or they're in prison. So it's kind of a delicate situation. I mean, I'm urging and begging this board here to move forward a regulation proposal, not a ban proposal. Let the state battle out. Let them do their due diligence with the FDA and all these other agencies. It's incumbent on you to sound the alarm, but you got, bigger fishes at work here. They need to do their job. The FDA needs to do their job. Be honest with you, it's almost disgraceful they put this on these local communities like this.
Let me ask Dr. Brandt,
Yeah.
if she doesn't mind. Dr. Brandt, you can't buy this in your pharmacy, correct? Or can you?
In a pharmacy?
Yeah.
No pharmacist would sell it.
Correct.
No.
Okay. Rob, you had something?
Yeah, I'm asking, go ahead, doctor.
I'm sorry, when you say a pharmacy, I mean like a Walgreens or a CVS, or
Well, I
they
mean, they're
wouldn't
pharmacies,
sell it.
right? Walgreens, CVS, they're pharmacies, right?
Right,
And they're private pharmacies, right?
yes,
So they don't sell it, is that correct?
no.
Okay.
But you could buy it on aisle 6 with the dietary supplements to lose weight.
Yes,
Not at the pharmacy
you could.
counter. So Walgreens could sell it at a different aisle.
Gotcha.
You could, yes.
See, this is a very complex issue, because initially, Irv, I was reacting to it, well, hell yes, we're going to try to ban this. This is terrible. And I heard the statistics you shared, Dr. Pratt, and it was very impressive and a little frightening. But I'm listening to John and saying, if this is life-altering for people trying to, I'm going to go with basically either manage pain or manage off more dangerous opioids.
Don't you think a physician, though, should be making that decision?
Yeah,
And you
yes,
should
that's where I'm
have
going.
products that
That's
are
where I'm
approved
going.
and tested?
That's where I'm going. But I also heard physicians can't write a prescription as a regulated substance because the FDA refuses to classify it as a regulated substance.
That's correct.
It's kind of a circular argument here that I can't get out of this do loop.
Well, they have a reason they're not going to regulate it. It's dangerous.
No, that's a reason to regulate. Why would they not regulate? Because
Well, when you
that's why
talk
we
about
have FDA
regulating,
laws.
you're talking about approval. They're not going to approve it. It's dangerous. If it's not approved, they're not going to do anything with it.
well, see, this is the do loop I can't get out of. Opioids are extremely dangerous.
Yes,
They are regulated by a doctor's prescription only.
yes.
Okay, then it leads to my next question. What are the barriers, reasons not to do the same with this substance?
They feel that this isn't as dangerous, that this is more of a danger than opioids are, and opioids prescribed by a prescriber and being monitored is less dangerous than what this is. I didn't make that determination.
I'm listening to your statement. Irv walked into a gas station and bought this more dangerous than oxycodone substance this morning, and a 12-year-old could buy it.
Yes.
But there's no need to regulate it. The FDA has not. It's leaving me in a paradox here that I don't know, I can't understand what I'm hearing. That makes no sense to me as a civilian looking at dangerous substances.
The way that this went through the loophole was when they approved herbals. When they didn't want the FDA to regulate herbals, they washed their hands of it. That's how this got by the FDA.
Anybody help me out here? I'm still in a circular box. What the hell's going on?
I am here.
Yeah, because the FDA regulates marijuana, cocaine, even methamphetamine. But, and from what I'm hearing here is this supposedly is a worse drug than that, but they're not regulating it. I can't wrap my head around that.
It doesn't make any sense to me. It truly doesn't.
I mean,
how is that
It's serious
possible?
enough that it needs regulation.
What rational person at the Food and Drug Administration would concur with the statement that, yes, this is more dangerous than methamphetamines, but we're not going to regulate it because it's an herbal? I mean, that
they
person
have
should
their
resign.
hands tied. They can't regulate a substance that's not approved.
A substance, so methamphetamines are approved. I am a novice
Yes.
in the regulation, so I'm asking the questions, not to be a wise guy. I just don't
No, I understand.
Methamphetamine is approved, kratom is not.
Yes.
Kratom is more dangerous than methamphetamine. None of this is making any sense to me. Well, John, you want?
Hold on just a minute, John. The county manager has
A question for Doc. Do you agree with John that the unadulterated, I mean, are you distinguishing between the unadulterated and the trash or the whatever?
Well, when you say trash and unadulterated, I like you to know that group that wants regulation for kratom has approved this on their product list. The American Kratom Association, Happy Hippo Kratom. So I'm not sure how they're regulating what trash is and what isn't.
I guess what I'm getting at is if, in fact, unadulterated kratom is beneficial in some cases, then it would seem that regulating it to make it available for a doctor to prescribe in those instances where it could be used, and so that you also can control the purity and make sure you know what you're getting, could be beneficial. Is that a true statement? I know what you think.
Yes, and the state can do that. They can make it a controlled substance. That would require a physician to write a prescription for it. So if you want regulation, you can go at it that way. In your state, the Director of Mental Health and Substance Abuse is the one who puts substances on the controlled substance list.
Bobby's having a conversation with the health person.
Right.
This is Senator Hanning.
Yeah, Senator Hannity, as we speak, and trying, not today, but,
Right.
just try to get that direction to go. Let me just tell you real quick what Georgia has done, because this regulation, in my humble opinion, is the way to go about this thing, whether the state does it, whether we do it. But if we could pass something in the meantime, sort of like Georgia did, and what Georgia's done, you have to be 21 years old to buy it. It'd be illegal to ingest kratom in a manner that uses heating equipment, power source, electronic circuit, electronical chemicals, mechanical means to produce the vapor, cigarette, electronic cigars, pipes. It's illegal to sell, deliver, cause, or deliver kratom in any form that violates the banned method of ingestion. Cannot be sold unless it's behind the counter of a store, only accessible by employees. Violations are $250 the first offense, $500 the next one, the third on $1,000. It cannot have a concentrated level of more than 150 milligrams per mg/9 per serving.
All of that implies manufacturing regulation and control.
Yes, sir. Right. Yeah, and so
That's a preface.
not only do they regulate it from the manufacturer, they also regulate it through the sale.
Yeah, two
The
step.
person who's selling it has to go to school to learn how to sell it. They cannot sell adulterated kratom or use any kind of substances that's not regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. Cannot control any synthetic alkaloids, metabolites, including synthetic kratom.
But no doctor prescription required.
No, sir.
Okay.
But that's the state.
That's the state of Georgia did. And now, my understanding is that we as a county can possibly pass on the kratom.
I think you could do a local regulation.
Yeah,
We
can.
There was
I'd
There
yield-
was
I'd
several
yield to the county attorney.
I don't know the answer to that.
There were several, I looked up, I dove into this yesterday, and I found all of where, it's a state, or a full thing across the country, and what each state's doing. And there were a couple states that had county regulations in some of those counties of those states that had not passed something. I don't know if that's something that we can do, because legislation is different in every state, but it's certainly something to consider if it's possible. But there were some states that had the counties had done a type of, what do they call it, CPCA? Was it the Kratom, Consumer Protection, yeah, KCPA. They had some sort of that. Right now, that's sitting at the federal level, that the KCPA is, they're sitting in committees.
We're introducing a bill to Congress this session.
Yeah, they were introduced bipartisan in the 118th. And they're just sitting in like weird committees too. But there were some states that had done some things, and there were individual counties within some of those states that had done things to regulate it or.
But that would you could send a signal to the state too. Look, we're taking charge here. We're going to be the leaders. You follow us, and you could demonstrate a really good, model.
Well, in the meantime, until the state makes a decision, because we don't know what they're going to come back with. They got stuck in the marijuana bill last year in the House.
And now they're going to start all
got
over.
thrown completely out, gone. Along with, according to Bobby, 1,000 other things that would have been beneficial for everybody in North Carolina.
Yes.
They were all trashed because they got stuck in the marijuana bill.
I'm hearing two types of regulation. One on the manufacture and production, as in it's got to say what's in it and yada, yada. And the other on the simple sale, period. Even if manufactured according to regulated standards, it would not be available without a doctor's prescription. It could not be sold without said prescription. So I think I'm hearing two regulations that we're discussing here.
And we're talking the non-clinical regulation, non-doctor regulation. So the reason a doctor's not prescribing, because there is no schedule for them to prescribe that
Right.
stuff. And because there's not a Kratom company that wants to spend $4.5 billion in 10 years to get a schedule from the FDA.
4.5 billion.
There's only one place.
Did you say billion, sir?
Billion.
So a company would need to come up with $4.5 billion.
The average cost to bring any medication to a prescription approved by the FDA today is $4.2 billion in 10 years. And the only place on the schedule to put Kratom is Schedule 1 without the FDA approving Schedule 2 through 5. So that makes it a felony and criminalizes 20 million adult responsible consumers that don't have the issue that the addicts have with it, or the people who abuse it. So it's a major
Dr. Brandt?
here.
If I could, Virginia has legalized marijuana, and marijuana is not legalized or approved by the FDA, and prescribers can write prescriptions for marijuana in Virginia. So yes, you can make Kratom a prescription only.
Well, wait a minute, I just heard two different things.
We're not talking cannabis.
I know we're not. I'm talking category.
Kratom.
It is very frustrating when two statements of fact are in conflict with one another and being made simultaneously.
Like CNN and Fox. But that got my thinking twisted now.
Sorry.
Is the solution, I guess where we're looking at is, we're looking at either promoting a ban or promoting regulation. If we're moving towards promoting regulation, then we do a resolution, tell the state to get with the Department of Health and Human Services at the state and come up with appropriate regulations. It's not our place to craft those regulations. I mean, we're going back and forth about what the regulations ought to say. I don't know how far the legislature would go. But if we think there is a legitimate use, if it's regulated properly, then we should say that in a resolution.
Right.
And send that resolution. If we don't think there's a legitimate use and we ought to just be done with it, then we send one that says be done with it.
So, but I want an immediate action. I don't want the kid to go over to that grocery store and buy this crap we just had right here. It's ridiculous.
I would think that we, as a county, my gut reaction without having looked and talked to anybody is we can't go ban Kratom any more than we could adopt a rule this morning to ban selling Pepsi Cola. Because we think that Diet Pepsi's bad for you. I mean,
He's saying that she has examples of counties that did exactly
in North
that.
Carolina?
No, I said not in North Carolina, but there were states that did it. That's why I said, I don't know that we can do it because of
In
that,
North
but it's worth
Carolina-
looking into.
In North Carolina, a county only has authority to do that which the legislature has granted authority to do. Now, we could go into this and say that this is a public health concern and do it through a public health approach and look at it that way. But then you're starting to look at, well, you're not allowed to do that where the state has shown its intent to control that whole place of business. And so, given that they've had a Kratom thing before the legislature and they have refused to adopt it, then it signals to me, at least on the surface, again, I haven't looked at anything, I'm just telling you my gut, that the state has decided we're going to decide what happens here, not the local governments. I'd be surprised if a local government could go in and you could buy it in Dare County, but you couldn't buy it in Currituck County. And if you bought it in Currituck County and got caught with it in your car in Dare County, are you committing an offense in Dare County? I don't think the state's going to let us have that hodgepodge of regulation, would be my guess.
North Carolina? Did y'all ever have blue laws?
Oh, yeah.
Is that still on the books?
The state legislature can have blue laws. Dare County doesn't have blue laws.
But the county can't mirror a state blue law?
But if the state has a blue law, then we don't have to mirror it.
But y'all don't determine the hours of operation for selling beer and wine? It's a state
Correct.
law.
So if you all are looking to do something locally, I got to go do some work to figure that out.
Well, I agree with what you said, Bobby. We need to take a position, either we want it banned or we want it regulated. And I've heard an arguments on both sides that the substance works when used properly and bought properly. So, you know, I would prefer to send a strong message to the state that it needs to be regulated and rework these last three therefores. That's my position. I think it needs to be regulated.
Yeah, well, push the button. See the red around your thing, I get it.
There we go. So I think we're all in agreement, like the prepackaged is not, I think everybody is in agreement that stuff, not good. Though I think the only thing we're talking about that is good is
GMP product.
you're advocating for the plant-based version of it. Now,
GMP.
non-chemically altered, yeah. So how would one go about ingesting the plant-based product? Is it like a tea? Is it a herbal remedy type thing? Is it something that has to have some kind of go-between A, B, C, multiple step process to ingest?
Most people just take a powder, put it in water, and they chug it.
Powder and water, okay.
Right. And they do have some appropriate, legitimate concentrates that aren't heavily.
But that's straight from
they're not adulterated. They're
yeah,
actually
plant-based.
Right, it's a plant. It's like a real tea they brew. They've got these little concentrated shots with no level of metragine, which is the component that hurts folks. But maybe you could send out the alarm to regulate, but y'all could maybe do a resolution for the local community, for the county community, and really start educating your people. Say, look, this is a problem. Don't patronize a store that sells this stuff. start educating.
But one thing I think we're all in agreement on, though, is the prepackaged, chemically altered, whatever, that type of it, not good, and we need immediate action on that.
I got something to say. If banning it altogether gets rid of that, then I'm for it. I'm for signing the resolution today if it gets rid of it sooner. That product right there has got a $50 sticker on it. Nowhere on it does it say it's for veterans or people suffering with PTSD. They're not advertising it as some healing drug. They're advertising it as a drug you take to get high. That's what that package is advertising. They're selling it, I'm sure, in hemp shops all up and down the beach for children to buy. I don't like imported seafood, but I don't like imported drugs even worse. That is an imported product from Asia. We are funneling money to drug dealers in Asia by purchasing that product here in the United States. That much is clear. And I'm not a fan of it.
That's a bad product. We don't like that product either, but we like appropriate products.
I would say we should definitely look into, I mean, I don't think this one before us today is not one we need to reword, because I think we've learned enough now that we're not ready to do that part, but we're definitely ready to be proactive in what we allow our children have access to. So, and in question to your FDA thing and part of my research, the two bills that are at the federal level right now, those bills require the FDA to do further research on Kratom specifically, but it also prohibits the FDA from regulating. The bills, they haven't been passed, but those are the bills that are at the federal level right now that's sitting in committee. So FDA's not going to get on this anytime soon because they're just waiting to see what the federal government's going to do. I think we do need to take action, but I think we need more information.
Point of information, we have a whole new federal bill replacing that one that cleans some of that up.
Yeah. It was a runaround between the FDA and the feds, for sure, when I was looking at it, when I was trying to figure it out.
Well, it's a cat fight up there.
Uh-huh.
It's crazy.
But the fact that we would take something that is helping so many of our vets and so many of the people that have chronic pain, I have read a bunch of things too, outside of the emails that we received, and a lot of them were from out of state. But it's not just our vets, it's people that deal with chronic rheumatoid arthritis and constant chronic pains that I would never want to, somebody that was using it properly and it was benefiting them, and it was keeping, the one person was off of, they were abusing prescription drugs that the doctors were giving them that they could go get without a problem. And it was not allowing them to function in everyday society. And so if an unadulterated version of this thing can help somebody and helps that many people, I have a tough time restricting that. But should it be in our grocery stores and a 12-year-old could walk in and buy it? Absolutely not. So I think the regulatory piece of it, and it doesn't seem that anybody for or against Kratom has a problem, that are using it properly, have a problem with the regulatory measures being put in place.
I've got a question of the pharmacists. Since they passed the Kratom Act in the state of Virginia, do you see less of a problem than what it was 5 years ago?
No, nobody enforces that. All that says is it has to say somewhere on the package for 21 and up. These were bought in Virginia. These were bought right across from the hospital I work at that are on your group's site as one of their preferred products.
Well, John, I'd like to hear your response to that.
Well,
it doesn't sound too good.
Happy hippo.
It doesn't sound so good.
All right, it says right here on the pack, half a teaspoon per serving. There's 6 in there. Do not exceed 2 servings per day. It says this 100% unadulterated, lab-tested, metragedine, speosis, no additives or filter for 21 and older. It's got the proper label. It got the proper content. It's got a pathetic trade name, because that, to me, that's targeting youth. And we're fighting like Dickens with these people. What are you doing? You're helping destroy our industry. So This is right on one side, you know,
Does it have a batch number?
questionable, huh? It's got to have a batch number on it.
Batch number.
Batch number, it's got everything it's supposed to be using GMP, but the marketing is, I think, out of line with our message, and we're cracking down on these folks as well.
But that's the plant-based option.
This is the plant. This is a tea.
That's the plant-based option in a prepackaged
Yep,
form.
it's unadulterated, pure, genuine Kratom plant, and you know we're fighting multiple issues, multiple levels, but the most important one is banning and scheduling genuine Kratom products, because we're going to hurt tens of thousands of people, maybe millions, because they estimate 20 million consumers. I don't know what the number is, but 20 million.
I wrote down 2.
Well,
2 million is what the DEA and the FDA estimate, 2 million.
You can Google there's like a business industry you Google, the go-to website for the stockbrokers, and you're going to show, it's a $4 billion a year industry, 15 to 20 million consumers, growing, expected to exceed X amount by 2030. It's a growing industry. It's legit growing industry if done properly and appropriately.
Yeah, I did that, John, and it also came out with 2.4 million users from the age of 12 to young adulthood.
Most kids don't use that, by the way. This is an adult
Yeah.
product. Kids don't have the money to buy it.
Right.
And if they had the money to spend the money, they go buy cannabis or Coke or crack or something. This is an adult.
What is the price of that packet you're holding that the doctor brought with
This
him?
one's $50 here.
Sorry.
How much was
What
it?
is the price of that packet? I'm just curious.
23, I think it was $23.
$23?
I don't mean to argue with it, but it's usually $1 a gram. This is 6 grams. Some people get it $2 a gram. That'd be $12. But if they're getting $20, them people.
Irv, you said yours was $50?
$50.
How many grams is in that bag? Mr. Bates?
200 cap.
How many grams are in there?
Let me.
There's no weight.
Back to Bobby's
Usually a
point.
gram
I
of
think
capsule.
That's where I'm coming from.
Let me ask this. In our resolution here, therefore be it resolved, we're basically asking the General Assembly to make a standalone bill.
Yeah, but for over-the-counter
For
sales.
over-the-county sales. And wouldn't, I'm not trying to put a blanket over everything, I'm just saying that in the General Assembly, if they did a standalone bill on Kratom, it would be up to the legislators to figure out what would be prohibited over the county, what would be regulated, and all of that under that law. So I think what we're asking them to do here is to make a standalone bill.
To ban it.
To ban it.
Yeah, to ban it.
Ban
We're
it.
saying to ban it over the counter.
want
We need to say regulate.
The standalone bill to regulate.
Regulate.
We could do both in our, we could say ban the adulterated products and regulate the unadulterated products
Yeah.
appropriately, then we
Yeah.
hit
Which that
both
seems
of the
what
problems.
Georgia did based on what Irvin read.
That's what they did.
But
Yeah.
that doesn't solve Commissioner Bateman's problem, it's because we'll send that to the legislature, and the
They'll still
legislature session's
continue to
gonna
sell
go on
across
from now
the
to
county.
September.
Yeah.
So we don't know what they're gonna do with it, it doesn't solve a problem quickly.
Well, could we do that, and then just to make, like we're doing something, and hopefully make it go quicker, could we check in and see if we can mimic Georgia's bill at a local level?
Can I, absolutely 100% can check into it. Now, whether we can do it or not, I don't know. I think that to mimic Georgia's bill where they have the criteria for the manufacturer, and I think that's going to be, go way beyond the purview of
Well,
what
it
county
said it was
governments.
illegal for the manufacturer to, for the person to sell that product.
I'll find out. I don't
You have
know
to
the
read the
answer.
bill. I mean, I just kind of went and
Right,
breezed
and if I
over it.
find out that we can, are we going to have a meeting to do that between now and the next meeting?
Absolutely, I'll call a special meeting, but and Commissioner Bateman's got a very valid point. While you're looking into that, I still think we need, not in a resolution, but in ask our public information officer, we need to make a strong statement to our citizens of Dare County that this over-the-counter stuff is not good. We need to send some kind of message through our public information office that addressing this and making the public aware. That's another step that we need to take after doing this resolution with respects to the state as far as regulating. And maybe you can draft something working with our public information officer in Health and Human
Public
Services.
health, state.
Yeah.
We can put that out. We don't need
Yeah.
action of the board to do that. We
Yeah.
can get that going
And
and get that out.
we can get with Sheila, and then Sheila can make that statement, and we can get it
We'll
out.
get that out.
So, are you gonna rework this, therefore it be, and come back to us?
What I would suggest is that I'll get with Dorothy and we'll rework the language and we'll add something in the whereas as a signifying the difference between adulterated and
Right.
unadulterated. And then we'll do the whereases to ban the adulterated and regulate the unadulterated as appropriate by the Department of Health and Human Services or something. However we say that.
Okay. Do you need a motion?
I wanted to ask Irvin if he'd be comfortable with that.
Yeah, anything, but I just want to go forward.
Yeah, you need a motion that would authorize you to sign the resolution modified as I just described.
Okay.
But we're going to read it again before we vote on it.
Well, are you asking me to do it like while we're sitting here?
We'll have to.
We'll make that motion next meeting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you're gonna wait till the next meeting, it's no problem. I was thinking you wanted to get something out like right now.
Well, I think it's important we do.
Well, it doesn't matter, the legislature won't convene before then anyway, so.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we can have it before the next meeting for sure.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
Doctor, thank you so much for your time this morning. John, thank you for your time this morning. Very appreciated.
Feel free to just reach out, Mr. Bateman, any questions, concerns, I'll be a resource for you. Good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. County Manager.
Brings us to item 8 on the agenda. This is for our Dare County EMS Station 5, our Nags Head project. We have a capital project ordinance and a design fee contract, and Dustin Peel's here to present that.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a couple minutes here. All right.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice
Morning,
Chairman,
Dustin.
and members of the board.
Good morning.
I have 2 items in front of you today that I'm asking for you all to approve. The first is the capital project ordinance that we created to help fund the design portion of the EMS Station 5 in Nags Head. We are increasing the Series 2025A limited obligation bonds by $987,500, and we are increasing the Nags Head EMS architect expense line by $987,500. I'd like for you all to approve that first, and then second is the design contract with Oakley Collier that we've partnered with to provide design and construction services for EMS Station 5 in the amount of $987,500.
So this first part, what you're doing is just moving one item from one fund from one line item to another.
Yes, sir. The capital project ordinance creates the expense account that we can then provide payment to the services that are being rendered for us.
Just creating the budget for what you've already approved.
Creating the budget.
Yeah, we're not really moving from one to another. We're creating the budget. Dave, what will it increase the LOBs from X to Y? Just as a matter of information?
I don't know. We've only budgeted as we've gone along, so we've just budget the architectural contracts. So it doesn't change the total estimate for the project.
I got you. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Vice Chairman House to approve. It's been seconded by Commissioner Ross. Further comments? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you all
Dustin.
very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Dustin.
That brings you to item 9. This is the presentation of the June 30th, 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. You've heard this in previous years. It's called the CAFR. They changed the name to is it now the ACFRA? Anyway, it's the same thing as the comprehensive report and the audit, and Dave's here to present that.
Wait a minute. We changed it from comprehensive annual to annual comprehensive?
We didn't change it.
Is that an act of legislature? I mean,
This is
has it
true.
gone through committee to
The
make
first
this?
one was a bad word in South Africa.
What?
The first one was a bad word in South Africa.
CAFR?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Well, there you go. I knew that all along.
I had a
can't
continuing
wait for
education
action to be
class.
taken. My outrage has been assuaged. Let's move on, Mary Helen. Make sure you note that.
Dan Morrow, our audit partner, is on with Matt, I think. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to let Dan go first because he's got some required communications that he has to give the board about his audit results.
Okay. Morning, Dan.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
I guess we don't get that.
Yeah, guess we don't get that.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Take the
Okay, Dan, try it again.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
There we go.
Oh,
All right, we're good.
okay.
Or you remember Bob Taylor, who was our prior audit partner for years and years and years, and he retired, but semi-retired. He came back and worked on our audit this year. But with that, I'm going to let Dan do what he needs to give you certain communications as the auditor.
Yes, thank you. So everybody can hear me okay now, I assume? Yes, okay, perfect. So yes, wanted just to go over a couple quick things. I'll try to go quickly. Just on behalf of the audit team, we're your independent audit firm. And yes, Bob Taylor is still the consulting partner, and I'm, of course, the partner on your audit. And I did want to specifically mention that the accounting finance team, as you've realized, I'm sure, we do pull a lot of reports. We pull a lot of supporting documentation. And then also, I know Chuck and Tammy both were up earlier. I want to thank the Department of Social Services. We're out there for several days doing some testing around some federal and state awards. And so, again, before I turn it back over to David, I just want to touch on the audit opinion and then the 3 reports that are included in your financial statements. So in the audited financial statements, page 12 is the audit opinion, and that is your independent auditor's report that says that it's basically a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that we can give as your auditors that the financial statements are materially correct and in accordance with U.S. GAAP. And then also in that audited financial statement, it does explain exactly what we do as your auditors under general accounting and auditing standards. And that's 3 primary points there. We do what's called a risk-based audit. So we evaluate the higher risk financial statement areas, both for governmental units and specifically for Dare County. And we look at budget expenditures. We look at grant and federal and state grant awards. We look at a lot of different areas, but we do design our procedures based on what we deem are the riskier financial statement sections. Then we also review your internal control structure, and specifically we look at your payroll cycle, your expenditure cycle, your budget process, and then your revenue deposit process. And so that's just very quickly what the audited report you can read in detail if you choose to. And then 3 in your compliance section at the sort of in the back of the ACFR, there are 3 reports there. All 3 of these are also unmodified or clean reports, but they specifically, one is on your internal control structure over your financial reporting, because you receive over $100,000 of federal awards. That's a yellow book, called a yellow book report. The second one is compliance over your major federal programs. In this year specifically, fiscal year 24, we looked at your medical assistance program, and then your report on major state programs. And for fiscal year 24, we looked at 3 of the water resource development grants and also your public school lottery fund award. And so again, those were all sort of unmodified. So, you know, just very quickly, and I know David will go over some of the key financial information, but it just is a reflection that your county staff are doing a good job of the required reporting and regulated conditions under those awards. And so with that being said, I will stick on to the call in case there's any questions, even after David goes over the financials, but I'll go ahead and turn it back over to David.
And I'm not going to go into a lot of depth, don't worry. This is going to follow pretty much what we gave to the audit committee in December, which is Commissioner Bateman and Commissioner Ross. So let's see. Okay, all right. If you need the website reference for where the report's posted, that's the reference. We submitted it to the state on November 25th. It's technically due December 1st. As Dan said, it's an unmodified clean opinion. There were no audit findings. Dan said something about social services. There were no grant findings, no question cost. We haven't had a grant audit finding since 1995. And then the certificate is through the Government Finance Officers Association. It's the annual comprehensive financial report. There's a checklist that's almost 100 pages long that you've got to go through every item. And I know that because I've been grading other reports for 16 years. I just did my last one. But this was the county's 33rd in a row. I went to a continuing ed class in December, and for 23, by the December 1st deadline, only 56 counties had submitted their reports. This year, for December 1st, it was only 28, but that's related to the storm out west. But the last item on here is as of the 12th, there were 3 counties and 50 cities or towns that still hadn't submitted their 23 audit report. And then there's what the Department of State Treasurer calls their unit assistance list. So you have to have a finding, and it's got to be something bad. There's 14 counties and 127 cities on that list right now. So it's not in great shape statewide. And I'm bragging a little bit on my staff. One thing you're going to see is the State Treasurer's Office Fiscal Management does what they call FPICs, Financial Performance Indicator of Concern, and the board members had to sign a letter last year. You'll have to do the same thing this year. They've taken a blanket measure and applied it to everybody, and there's 20 of them. One of them is water fixed assets, and they're saying if your undepreciated fixed assets is less than half of your total, then you got a problem. We don't have a problem. We showed them last year, had Raftellus Financial Consulting write them a letter of why it wasn't a problem, and we'll do the same thing this year, and that's what the letter we'll send back to them is going to say. And I tell you, it is not an issue. We had to implement, I'm just mentioning this, GASB number 100, which is changes in reporting county changes in error corrections, because there's an error correction in it that we have to call an error correction. The opioid settlement funds, the State Treasurer's Office told us how to account for it in 23. That was wrong. So now we have to fix that. And now it's a major fund because we have to record as a receivable the grand total of all the settlements and just recognize the revenue as we spend the grant, or it's not grant, but recognize revenue as we spend the settlement proceeds. But the receivable is going to sit there for a long time, and it's going to be a major fund. The results, just in the general fund, which is your main fund, that's the budget everybody pays attention to. You had planned, if the budget was perfect, to decrease the fund balance by $9.3 million. And the things you used, one-time uses to decrease that, where you put $6 million into the capital fund, you put $1 million into the housing fund for teacher housing, $1.5 million into the housing fund early during the year for what then was the Woder Cooper project, and then had almost $1 million for school mold. Well, instead of a decrease of 9.4, you had an increase of $1,459,000. And that happened by, our revenues were $3 million over, about less than 2.5% of the budget. The expenses were 9.2 million under, which is about just over 7.5%. Then the two other larger things is we had a COVID-19 fund. We filed a lot of FEMA claims under there. Anything we thought was eligible, the state wasn't happy with us because they wanted us to use our rescue plan money. And I said, you know, it's not my job to minimize the state share. It's my job to minimize the county share. So we had 532,000 of things that had been paid for out of the general fund that we finally got all that closed out, free and clear, and we moved it back to the general fund, or moved it to the general fund from where it was spent. And then the home health and hospice restriction, the contract calls for the proceeds for what you made the sale for, that after 5 years, the restricted amount goes down, and then it goes down again. I think it's 7. So that's how much the restriction went back down by, and we moved it over to the general fund. So the net was that $1,459,000. On the revenue side, EMS fees were over. That was a result of just increased calls. Investment income was $2.5 million over. When we did the budget in like April of 23, the projection was for Fed rate decreases to be coming pretty quickly. They came pretty slowly. So we earned more interest or investment income than we thought we would. Then on the expense side, this is just by the largest departments. EMS was over $1 million under budget. The other ones, maintenance, building and grounds, that's facility maintenance and ground maintenance combined. That was almost all salaries and fringes. DSS in-home services, almost all salaries and fringes. The ending amount under was 7.6% under budget. Our average since 1989 is 4.5. Then on, instead of by department, by what we call function, or no, what we call character, you can see the salaries and fringes for the whole county was over 6% under, and the total 7.1. And one thing from a continuing ed class, this was a national survey by Hilltop Securities, and the only point is to show you, and it's kind of an aside, the third most concerning for local governments is affordable housing, but the first thing that everybody's having a problem with is labor and staffing and turnover and vacancies. Then the other funds, when we have the general fund, which is the operating fund, but we've got other little funds or smaller funds that get consolidated into the general fund. There's the general fund change that I mentioned. The capital investment fund added 11.5. We've got disaster recovery, law enforcement officers, special separation allowance activity. The home health and hospice, that's the money coming out that went to the general fund. Stormwater, the housing fund, and the school capital. So the total increase in the consolidated was just over 13 million. On the capital fund, it increased by 11.5 because we put $6 million into it during the year. $2.9 million of expenditures under budget, but 2.8 of that was from open purchase orders for capital that hadn't been delivered on June 30th. And it included, for the first time, 2 years worth of purchase orders. So we haven't received.
So this is a cash basis. We're ahead on a cash basis and we're even
exactly
on an accrual basis.
Exactly.
Okay.
But wasn't mentioned, we haven't received the ambulances that we ordered in 2023. That's just the situation with, the supply chain. We went over this a little bit in the last meeting, the water fund. Your total debt position's almost 62 million. It increased by 2.2. We had a 7% increase in water sales with a 2% rate increase. Some of the rest of it, the 5.25%, was from volume from new customers, but a lot of that was replacement of water meters that they, the new ones more accurately read. And I think Commissioner Ross mentioned last time our revenue bond coverage is just over 6, and our requirement is 1.5.
So given what we had the special meeting on regarding water to do the repair under the sound, and that cost, once done and paid, would still leave revenue bond coverage about 4, give or take?
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Okay, and then my last things is there's 2 statements up in the front of the report that are completely full accrual, and nobody ever uses them. I've never had a rating agency ask a question about them. Never had a comment from the state treasurer's office because they're not comparable between governments. You can't compare a county from North Carolina to a county in Virginia because of the way different things we do things. And what we found out through a study was you can't even compare counties in North Carolina because not every county runs a landfill. Not every county has a health department. Not every county does EMS, or they may have employees, or they may contract it out. But over time, if you look at your own number, you can draw some conclusions. And this is the net position. On a full accrual basis, with everything thrown in, this is whether we were to the good or to the bad and how it's changed over time. And you can see starting in 2017, it's a good upward trend. And how that happened were 4 things. The graph on the right is school debt. One of those comparable things is in North Carolina, the county has to record the debt, but we can't record the asset because it's the Board of Ed's asset. So that reduces our net position. But as that debt went down over time, it stopped counting against us. You made changes to the health insurance plan and to the retiree health plan, which I'll show in just a second. The board created an irrevocable trust fund for OPEB, which is retiree health benefits, and one for the law enforcement officer special separation allowance, and then just good financial performance. Now, this is the insurance fund. This is the 10 years from 05 to 14, and the blue on the top are health plan benefit payments, which went from 4.9 to 9.1, which was 8.5% a year for 10 years. The orange was the insurance fund balance, which went from 1.4 million to negative 4.6. And that accounts for all the insurance activities, but what really drives it is health insurance. So we made a lot of changes, and starting in 2015 and going through 24, the blue at the top are the benefit payments, and that increased by less than 2% a year every year for 10 years.
People stop getting sick?
No, I'll tell you next.
Okay.
And the
I don't want
orange
to read ahead, sorry.
The orange is the fund balance, which recovered and would have kept going up. And some of you may not know, but we had a lawsuit settlement that came out of the insurance fund during 24. So that's why that went down just a little bit. Now, I'm going to go back. I'm going to read off of this slide, but go back to this one. And the green items at the top are when we made changes. That one in 2014, we hired Mark III benefit consultants to work on our health insurance plan, our stop loss, everything related, and to make recommendations. Then in 15, here it is, Mark III identified, we call them pre-65s. If you retire and you're less than 65 years old, you have to be on the regular health insurance plan instead of Medicare. Though we finally identified, they got the data and said those are the people that were costing us a ton of money. I mean, 3 times as much as a regular employee. So we fixed the funding for that. We changed the plan options from just a preferred provider to you could do either choose a preferred provider or an HSA, which is a high deductible plan, and the employee can choose. The HSA is actually cheaper for the county. We started the wellness program with the hospital. We started the employee wellness program. In 16, we switched to med costs from Blue Cross Blue Shield. We decreased spouse coverages. We added biometrics to the wellness program. In 17, we had the pre-65s fully funded. 18, we started employee assistance program. And then in 20, we expanded the wellness center. And I think you can see by those trend lines that it's worked. And a benefit payment average of less than 2% is just not, you don't see that. So it's worked. My last thing is retiree health. I went back and looked. The county established retiree health benefits in 1984, and they said any employee that retired under the state retirement system was eligible for retiree health benefits. And there's 2 things with that. North Carolina's a contract law state, so the first day of your work, whatever those benefits are the benefits you have to get the day you retire. So if we make changes, it takes 20 or 30 years for the cost for those changes to benefit us. And those changes were in 99, well, let me go back. What we started seeing happening was we started getting a lot of applications of people that were 60 years old that lived in Virginia because they had retired from their government job. And under the North Carolina retirement plan, you can be 65 with 5 years of experience or 5 years of work, and you can retire under the plan. It's not much of a benefit. You know, you don't get a lot of money, but the reason they were doing it so that they could get the retiree health benefit paid by Dare County. So we started thinking of ways, how can we get rid of that? So in 99, we changed the amount that spouses had to, or the employee had to pay for their spouse. But then the big one in 2007, we said, in order to get that, you have to have worked for 20 years with Dare County, not just retire. And then last year in 23, we changed that to 30, which kind of effectively eliminates the benefit. There are not going to be many people that retire from Dare County with 30 years of work experience now. And then I mentioned establishing the trust. We were number 4. We were the 4th one in the state to establish a retiree health benefit, irrevocable trust. And what's happened with retiree health, I mean, it's a big number. It's like 120 million, but that's for all current retirees, all current employees until the end of their life. You know, but what we've done to address those are these changes, but the problem is that those changes take a long time to flow through money-wise. But the blue line on the left, the blue bars, are the service costs, and that's when the actuary takes, these are the costs every year for your current retirees and what applies to this year for your employees for when they retire. And you notice 23 and 24 are a big change, and that was that 2007 change that started to roll in. The orange ones on the left are what we call other costs. If there's change of assumptions, changes in interest rates, those get rolled into the calculation. But in 22, 23, and 24, we actually had a negative retiree health expense. So we improved when you looked at the total picture. The graph on the right, the blue is the same service cost. The orange are benefit payments, and you can see the service costs come down in 23, 24. But what's going to happen over time is those benefits and those service costs are going to converge. So what we've done is working. Now,
Dave, we have about 700 current employees in the county.
Yes, sir.
And we have what? How many? Do you have any estimate on how many retirees? Do we have any idea?
Yeah, it's in the audit report.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
remember.
I was just curious. Okay. I can look it up.
200 and something, I think, less than 300.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I think. But when I was talking about the orange on the left graph in the last 3 years, you make a change in an assumption, you don't get to benefit that all in 1 year. It's got to be amortized in over time. And those are called deferred outflows and deferred inflows. Now, here's the other good news is at the end of the year, we had deferred outflows. Deferred outflows are bad things that are going to come in the future, 185,000. Deferred inflows are good things that are going to come in the future, and that's 21.7 million. So those numbers on those other slides are going to continue to get better. And then finally, this is just another way to measure it. And it's the measure's not important. What is happening to it over time is the left is you take the net position, which is how much money you have in the irrevocable trust, and divide it by the liability. And the higher that number, the better. So you're trending in the right way. And the last slide is kind of the opposite, where you take the net liability, take the total liability, deduct out what you've got saved, and divide it by payroll. And our payroll's gone up with the salary study over the last 3 or 4 years, and that trend line's still going down. So my whole point was to look back at some things we've had to deal with, and you've taken steps to address those for the future, and it's working.
Stop doing everything tomorrow, and we had to pay all that out with no future income coming in because the county went out of business, which isn't going to happen yet.
That's right.
Dave, that's really good stuff, especially in terms of managing these health insurance costs, the fund, really good stuff. So thank you.
No actions needed, but any questions?
Yeah, I got one, just because I'm learning, getting new, and I'm a big-time math guy. As far as our net position to the good, see if I can find that page on here. Am I right, we're saying we're close to a 140 million net position to the good now, 2025 going in?
Yep, I think
160, I mean, it goes off the graph.
That's right.
Okay. So we're doing a good job on revenue, I guess, so when the revals happen this year. I know we've got a lot of senior citizens and people in this county that are real scared of these revals, and obviously we'll discuss all this stuff later, but I just want people to be aware of that.
Carson, yeah, it's a valid point. We'll be looking at revenue neutrality, which will not penalize those folks in terms of ad valorem tax.
Because I know our appraisals are going to go up. I mean, that's, yeah.
All right, that moves us on to item 10.
Thank you, Dave.
And this is Dave also. This is to designate the applicant's agent in a state applicant disaster agreement for the tropical cyclone 8. And Dave, if you need to give them any more information.
Yeah, it's just, it was in September 16th, and it mainly affected everywhere down south, Brunswick County, New Hanover, and Carteret. And with everything that they had going on, North Carolina Emergency Management, while they were doing this stuff out west, Joe Stanton worked to get us declared. And we did get included in the federal declaration for every category. Now, we've done a search. We don't have any employee labor, any overtime, any EOC cost, but we did have Buxton Beach Nourishment. Coastal Science and Engineering went and did a post-storm survey. Their conservative guess is 175,000 cubic yards. If you did that as a project by itself, it cost just over $10 million because of the mobilization cost. But we won't do that. We had already started on a maintenance project for 2026, so we'll combine those two. But using the 2022 project size and cost, this will get us a FEMA share of $2.6 million. And like I said, that is an estimate. The FEMA Beach Nourishment engineer will be here next week. We've worked with him before. He's very good. So we'll see if we'll get more. We'll certainly try. But the point is, this is for you to approve, for me to sign electronically the designation of applicant's agent, which is me, and we have a secondary person, Celine Dede in my department, and the state disaster assistant agreement. And you know, they're standard, take it or leave it. It is what it is.
So the total project cost in Buxton will be in the mid-teens?
If you have the same size, and I don't think it'll be the same size project. I think it'll be more.
There's a lot of things going on. One is, I think we're going to need more sand than what we anticipated. The second thing is, I think it was Ocean Isle Beach just did a bid project that came in way over their bid, and they did not accept it, and they've gone back and rebid it because it was beyond the projected yards per cubic yard. And so I would expect our per cubic yard cost to go up from the numbers that you have there.
Well, I'm just looking at this and doing the 175,000 cubic yards is roughly 15% of the 1.2 million.
Right.
If that's valid of 2.6 million, I multiplied it by 6 and got mid-teens.
So
that's, yeah.
That'd be right. And they'll, if it's 15%, then FEMA's going to pay 15% of whatever the number is.
They're going to pay for 175 cubic yards plus whatever
the
percent
cost
that
is.
works out of for the mobilization.
Okay, all right. Guys, this is an aside, no comment needed. Are we looking at getting into our own beach nourishment company?
You got the money?
Not unless you.
Well, if I do the next 10 years, how many tens of millions are we going to spend?
The issue, to answer your question directly, is
$250 million over 15 years.
moving the sand is the cost, and to move the sand, you have to have a dredge, and the Miss Katie can't do it.
Oh, I'm not talking about Miss Katie.
Okay, so to have our own company, we've got to have some ability to move sand.
Right,
Well, you're talking about buying a ship or?
right. That's what I'm talking about.
So what do you do for the 5 years that you don't need the ship?
We go up and down this beach. How often do we do this? I mean, literally, I've not done the cost benefit.
Next it was 7 years.
I
but
just
most
heard
of the
what he's-
average is 5 years.
So, okay, like I said, no
No,
comment
I'm just
needed.
saying, I'm not arguing with you. I'm
yeah.
just asking you, what are we gonna do with a dredge that sits there for 5 years?
Is there anyone else in the United States that dredges beach nourishment sand?
Absolutely.
Maybe there's a business model.
Yeah, and there's another.
Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Like, every time we do a beach nourishment, the cost of the sand and the millions of dollars, like I say, million here, million there, pretty soon you're talking real money. Where is the point where it's no longer economic to be paying these maritime dredge companies?
Well, that's the old axiom in beach nourishment. Beach nourishment is a great tool until you run out of sand or run out of money. And,
Right.
and both of those things, in one order or the other, are going to occur sometime. You can't say when, but
Yeah.
for sure are going to happen.
But again, I throw that out as kind of a crazy idea, but every time we talk, and you just made a good case in point, Bobby, that came in so high, they said, no, we can't.
Well, places like Buxton could use it right now.
Well, we're working hard as we can go.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
Hold on,
not
there's-
I'm not saying anything
and
about
we-
that.
Is the permit.
Yeah.
We'd be doing
And
that.
we've moved that
Yeah.
back a year.
Yeah, to move it up, yeah.
Yeah, so we can move forward.
And we met with the
Yeah.
consultants last month and went through all that and talked about the numbers and trying to get them to hone in closer on what it's really going to be. They're working on that
Well,
now.
and you said there's 2.6
Ain't no way.
roughly million that they're gonna, it's a take it or leave it? And,
If it's 15% of the sand, 15% of the project will be paid for by FEMA.
okay, yeah, so,
Well, if it's 175, we're going to work to get more.
More,
Because
yeah,
it's all,
obviously, yeah.
it's estimates.
estimate, yeah.
To
But
the
that
eye,
would
it
be,
looks like more than that.
and that would be earmarked directly towards the,
Bucks.
so that would help some absorption of increased costs.
And the other
Yeah.
thing I wanted to mention that'll help is they also did, we're doing Buxton and Avon together. They also did a survey of Avon. Avon, at the end of September, had more sand on it than when we did the last project.
So it's held up better.
So, it's a credence.
It's accreted.
Have we ever looked into netting the beaches? to hold stable sand.
Looked
'Cause we've
into all
literally
kinds of
built islands in the sound using just old gill net web.
I've never heard or seen anybody using netting. There are a number of tools out there, all kinds of geotubes and all kinds of stuff that have been used, like at the Great Lakes, they have a big erosion problem and all that. But the problem we have in North Carolina is most of that stuff's not allowed, and so to do those kind of things, you've got to get
But
legislation.
most people would be surprised, but most of those sand islands and stuff you see out in the sound, like East Bernards and all, those are not natural.
Oh, yeah,
They're
right.
old
They're
foundations,
dredge spoiled
old gill
sites.
net and stuff that people put together and literally made islands, and it held and stabilized it.
And one other thing, Coastal Science and Engineering is doing work on the groins at Buxton, because the last time there's a 50% rule?
So.
But they want to see what's under that we can't see to see if
We'll come
we're
back at
actually
budget time,
more
we'll
than
go through
50% or
the-
less.
Okay, all right. All right. Did you get what you needed?
Just a authorization for me to execute those two agreements.
I'll make a motion to authorize Dave to sign those applications.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Balance. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Dave.
Chairman, that brings you to the consent agenda. Real short, you have approval of the minutes from December 2nd and December 18th. You have a budget amendment for the dredge engineering services, and you have the stream removal 2024 strap contract grant.
Motion to approve.
Motion on the floor by Vice Chairman House to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Balance. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then these are your board appointments. The Dare County Waterways Commission, Commissioner Couch or former Commissioner Couch no longer serving in the commission. A current board member will need to be appointed to fulfill his unexpired term. You're going to do that at a later?
No, it's my recommendation to add Commissioner Kreef to this and create an additional seat with Mary Ellen Balance. So I'll take that in a single motion if the board is okay with that.
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by myself, second by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Similarly, the Pheasant Center Advisory Board, former Commissioner Couch can no longer serve, and a current member needs to be appointed to fulfill his term.
That would be, we did this earlier. We did this earlier and added in my opening remarks.
You already did this one?
Mary Ellen Balance,
Okay.
yes.
All right, next is the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Maddox Cromwell has held the position for the underage 21, which expires this month. He does not wish to be reappointed. Stephanie Webb has resigned from the Director of the Local Management Entity Care designated seat. The council recommends that Christopher Bryson be appointed to fill that term. Marsha Ribner Caddies resigned from the Member Business Community seat. The council recommends that Shania Burris be appointed to fulfill that term. The council recommends that Susan Bothwell be appointed to fill the vacant appointee seat. Jennifer Smith has resigned from the Substance Abuse Professional seat. There were no recommendations, and so that would remain unfilled until we get a recommendation.
Motion to approve all recommendations.
There's a motion on the floor to approve all recommendations by Commissioner House, Vice Chairman House. There's a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Balance. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. I would recommend Catherine Fagan to fill that other seat because she's an attorney, and I think it would be advantageous for us to have an attorney on that. So it's just my recommendation.
Hang on. I think, wasn't Susan Bothwell appointed, or?
No, it says Jennifer Smith has resigned from the substance abuse. There
She's
were
a
no
substance abuse
recommendations.
professional seat.
Pardon?
That's a substance abuse professional seat.
Sorry, I misread that.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Okay.
Move on.
Did you already do the
Move
Older
on.
Adult Services Advisory Board? Yeah, I'm on there. Okay, you
Yeah,
did that.
Carson's on there.
How about the Working Waterman Commission?
Let's see what we did. Working Waterman.
Commissioner?
No, that's
Vice Chairman
one.
House wants to be reappointed.
Yes, he wants to be reappointed and to that. Is there a motion to do so?
Yeah, move to reappoint.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Ross, seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
In your upcoming appointments in February, you have the Aging Advisory Council with 2 terms expiring. The Planning Board has 2 terms expiring. The Senior Tar Heel League Legislature has 2 terms expiring. Parks and Rec Advisory Board has 1 term expiring. The Working Waterman has 1 term expiring. And the Mans Harbor Marina Commission has 4 terms expiring. And that'd be your agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, County Manager. That brings us to item 13, Commissioners' Business. Do you have anything else for us this afternoon before we go to closed session?
No, sir, nothing other than the closed session.
All right. That brings us to Commissioners' Business. Commissioner Burris, would you mind kicking this off?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The only thing I would like to point out, and you touched on it in your opening, is to me personally, Saturday and Sunday were days of loss where we as a community lost 2 people that I personally know. Mr. Collins was put to rest on Saturday, and he's one of the finest gentlemen I've ever met. And I grew up a few years younger than his youngest son, Frank. And we played a lot of basketball down the courts on this beach, and in just a first-class gentleman, served on the town council with Manio with my grandfather, David Farah. And when my grandfather got to the point that he could no longer make it to the meetings at night because he couldn't drive because he was elderly, Mr. Collins would stop by there and pick him up and make sure that he got to every meeting he needed. And just a first-class gentleman and a true asset to our county, and he's going to be sorely missed. And then Mr. Charlie Brody passed away, and his son Michael and I have coached a lot of basketball with the travel program and youth programs, and we enjoy that service to the community. And he was also a very good gentleman and just going to be sorely missed. And I just wanted to make note of those 2 passings because they have a very profound effect on me personally. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Commissioner Balance.
I will be brief. The Housing Task Force, we went to that meeting. Went to that meeting in December, and it's really I love seeing the progress that they're making. Malcolm and Donna are doing a phenomenal job in keeping that moving forward. They just approved that application to go to the School of Government for the review, and I'm excited to see what comes back on that. I wanted to say thank you to you guys that were able to come down to the Christmas parade. I had more people come up and say, how'd you get these guys down here? I said, we asked, they will come. So thank you. It was everybody noticed that you guys were there, and it was a really special day. Even though that bridge, it's amazing how much a mile and a half makes a difference when you live in Hatteras Village on the north end. I was fortunate enough to go to the SPCA, and my husband and I adopted 2 kittens and a dog, and that place out there is amazing. And Leroy is fitting in great. Millie and Tilly are doing wonderful, and they bring us so much joy. And then one last thing. As we've gone through these notice of appointments for upcoming things where the community can get involved, I'm sure we post them on the website, but do we do Facebook posts about what's coming up too? Okay.
Yep.
That's great. And I'm going to reach out to some people too and just make it known that we really need to try to get as many people involved as we can. And the board obviously provides those opportunities, and I look forward to people taking advantage of that because it's important. And thank you, Susan, for agreeing to serve. That's it. I'm good.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ross.
Thank you. Just a couple of items. One, Roxana Ballinger, Employee of the Month. I don't know how well, I think you all know her pretty well, and I've gotten to know Roxana better, and I just wanted to make a point to thank her, to recognize her. She does work tirelessly, and I often see her battling uphill against the headwind, and she is relentless. So I have great respect for her, and I think that was a great award, and I just wanted to make sure she knew that. I know we have it on this, January the 18th at the Tillett Center MLK event. It is a wonderful event, and I would urge all those that can to please attend. And lastly, the Trillium Health Board has gone through a considerable number of changes recently. And they've gone through the state with Secretary Kinsley, and effectively they have restructured through, and I won't bore everyone, a lot of complaints and issues to a 15-member governing board, and our own Wally Overman will be represented or representing us from our region. There are 5 regions in the 46-county Trillium catchment area. So we cover a huge amount of geographic territory in our board. I sit on one of those 5 boards. Wally formerly did, or no, he still will remain on that board as well as representing us on the governing board. So I'm very pleased about that, as I know Wally will do a superb job as he usually does. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple things real quick. The North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, Division of Marine Fisheries, accepting public comment on the draft Eastern Oyster Fishery Management Plan Amendment 15 and draft of the Hard Clam Fishery Management Plan Amendment 3. Both of those will be here in this room tomorrow at 6 p.m. So I urge our commercial watermen to come voice their opinions. I, too, am deeply saddened by Darrell Collins' passing. We had several conversations at the Wright brothers, and a deep loss, and Dare County definitely lost a treasure. Also, another death that we recently had was Dean Morris. Dean Morris was the helicopter mechanic for Dare Med Flight for several years. He retired a few years ago. Dean was above and beyond what you would expect from an aircraft mechanic. He loved those helicopters as if they were his own children. I do remember exactly on one flight, Dare Med Flight was dispatched out at 1:30 in the morning. Pulled the med flight out. During pre-flight, a warning light came on. The pilot let their central know that they would not be able to make the flight. And Dean was called. He went out there. And within minutes, he had the problem solved. And before Nightingale could take off from Norfolk, they canceled Nightingale's flight, and Dare Med Flight made the mission. That's the kind of dedication Dean had to those helicopters. The First Flight Society, we're gearing up for their 125th anniversary, so you'll start hearing a lot of stuff about that too. Also, real quick, I wanted to thank everybody for reappointing me as chairman of the Dare County Working Watermen's Commission. I would like to take this moment to revamp that commission. Over the past 2 or 3 years, it's been extremely hard to get a quorum together for those meetings. So I want to revamp that if I can and get the board's approval to retain Sean Darcy as our science advisor, retain Dewey Himmelwright, who's a commercial fisherman, and then reappoint or appoint Carson Creef, Mary Ellen Balance to the commission, because we do now have 3 commissioners who are very active in our commercial fishing industry. And I think with these personnels on board, we should be able to move the needle forward that we haven't been able to do in the past couple of years.
We did that. Carson and Mary Ellen are on.
Yeah.
Working Waterman Commission?
We did the waterways. We did the waterways.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah.
Is that in the form of a motion,
I would
Vice
like that in
Chairman?
the form of a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Also, our favorite part of any commercial commissioners meeting, meet Hazel, our pet of the week.
Our pet of the week this week is Hazel. Hazel is about 2 years old and is a dog's dog for sure. She can be a little nervous meeting new people, but with another dog around, she opens up so much. Hazel loves squeaky toys, she does really well in her kennel, and would do well with a patient home that will take things slow.
Pretty dog.
If you have another dog and are interested in Hazel, please call the shelter to schedule a meet and greet. To adopt Hazel or foster one of our other animals, come visit us Monday through Friday at our shelter located in Manio. For more information, visit our website at obxspca.org or visit our OBXSPCA Facebook page.
So please go out to SPCA and hopefully give Hazel or one of the other pets out there their forever home. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Commissioner Bateman.
Yes, sir. Let me see here. We had a little conversation about the erosion behind the medical center in Hatters. Did we ever address that?
Yes, we're waiting for that project bridge to be done, and we're going to mirror what they do when they feather it out, either bulkhead or riprap, and I'm pretty confident it's going to be riprap.
Cool.
And that's already, we've already scheduled to have that done. We're just waiting for them to finish that, and we'll match that at the site. And like I said, I'm pretty confident it'll be riprap.
Great. After the Christmas parade, I would run there. It's a mess back there. So, yeah, it needs to be done, but thank you. Bill, Elizabeth, and Ben Brown lost their house over in Juan Cheese. Just keep the guys in your prayers. They got a fundraiser coming up on the 18th. Is it 18th, Mike? Yeah, they got it. Yeah, you got a pig picking, so please, if you get time, go support that. Good folks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Elizabeth worked for me. I know Bill for years. He sold me fish. The oysters. So I don't understand this one. They're going to take the mechanical oyster in out of how many bids?
They're eventually going to phase it out.
Okay.
Mechanically.
Let me just tell you the impact. This past Christmas, you know, I'm a licensed fish dealer, and we had oysters that came into the shack. They bought under my name. They ran short, and so we had to go buy some farm raised. And so we had the ones that came from Hyde County, came out of Mother Earth property, good, fat, salty oysters, crabbing every damn one of them, beautiful tasting. And then we had the farm raised oyster that was about that big, and it had no flavor to it at all. Didn't have a crab in it. When you go try to shuck it, the shell is so thin that you can't even shuck the thing. It's a totally different animal. We're destroying our whole industry. We've had this before, but my industry, the restaurant industry, we can't take much more if they keep taking all the stuff that we sell that makes it advantageous for them to come down here and eat from us. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Creef.
Yes, I'd like to start by saying it's going to be a privilege to serve on all these boards that I've been appointed to. I look forward to it. I look forward to meeting all the people involved and getting some good things done in Dare County. Secondly, I would like to send special prayers for one of our own, Dare County Sheriff's Department, longtime deputy, Jeff Ambrose. He's been extremely ill. I consider him not only a role model and a good person, but a good friend, and he needs our prayers right now. Also, I had it written down to talk about Bill Brown. I know him personally, comes in my store all the time, about their house burning up. They did rent that house, so now currently they're having to try to bounce around and find places to stay, so continue to pray for them, and they are doing some fundraisers, and please attend those and donate. It's a new year. Obviously, we all have got our own little resolutions. I hope that everything goes well for all of our residents. I hope they stay healthy in this time where there's a bad flu going around. And just pray for their minds and for their families. And I would like to do my New Year's pledge. I'm a big history guy, and you've probably heard this before if you're old enough, but in 1981, one of my favorite presidents, Ronald Reagan, used it in his inaugural address. But I would like to refer to Martin Trepko. He was a World War I veteran who was killed in action while carrying a message between trenches. When they recovered his body, they found a note in his pocket, and that is going to be my resolution for this year. Dare County is worth fighting for. Therefore, I will work I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure, I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost as if the issue of the entire struggle depended on me alone. So I look forward to this new year. I can't wait to be on these boards, and thank you, gentlemen, so much for all the help that you've been to me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. And that brings us to Dorothy, our Public Information Officer. You have anything for us today?
I was going to mention, we're looking at March 19th for the state of the county. I'm trying to confirm that date with Captain George's before we open registration, but tentatively put that on your calendar. And then I don't think we've talked about the youth center
We haven't.
ribbon cutting.
We're
but
talking sometime in February.
Early February.
Yeah.
Like possibly, were there dates that we need to avoid?
We need to avoid the commissioners' meeting date. We don't, as much as we like to do that in the afternoon, we're going to have a couple of commissioners are not going to be able to make it.
Okay, so we'll put some dates out. I'm going to meet with Sheila next week, but we'd like to do that late in the afternoon so that the kids
Right.
are out of school and can participate in that.
Right.
I would say the MFC meeting that's scheduled the 19th, 20th, and 21st in Kitty Hawk, so that's in February.
What meeting is it?
It's it's the first MFC meeting for forever, is the 19th, 20th, and 21st
Okay,
of February.
Thank you.
I'll be back on the 8th of February.
Okay, I'll do some polling with you all.
Right across the street, I'm good.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. That's
Thank
all
you,
I
Dor.
have.
Dave, you have anything else for us?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Bobby, you need a motion.
Yeah, I need a closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A5 to instruct the county attorney concerning the position to be taken by on behalf of the county in negotiating the price or other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property in the Davidson property matter.
Is there a motion by the Vice Chair, seconded by Commissioner Burris? Any further comments? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. I'll call the Dare County Board of Commissioners back to order, and I'll turn it over to the county manager.
In the closed session, the board gave the county attorney guidance with regard to the Davidson property as well as the state property in Kitty Hawk, and took no other action.
Okay, that brings us to the fact that we need a motion to adjourn until February the 3rd at 9 a.m. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Balance. It's been seconded by Vice Chairman House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Rock and roll.